exciting time. We're stretching boundaries that will irreparably alter people's perception of what they are willing to watch. And our next season will offer tantalizing programming that plays seamlessly into the desire of our viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you just a taste of what ODS has to offer.
You know the rules. Grow a pumpkin or go home. Here's the twist. Only one of you has the real pumpkin seeds.
Are you a pumpkin or not?
You call yourselves pumpkin growers?
I know I didn't get the pumpkin seeds. I dug in there. They're bean sprouts.
Starting a pumpkin alliance. Anyone grows a pumpkin, we split the money.
Get out of my patch.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. You can call in about whatever's on your mind, and that means you can change the subject or tell us what you think about what we're saying. It's up to you. It's Free Talk Live, and with you on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Stu,
and Riley.
And we already have a caller on the line, so let's go to the phones. We have Dave Ridley here in New Hampshire. Dave, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, folks.
Hey, how you doing?
So, Russell Canning from NH Exit has been reporting on, I guess, what we would call a nervous state rep who was accused of being associated with us. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Interesting.
And people were trying to get her thrown out of office for, not reelected, basically, unreelected or not elected in the first place. When I say state rep, I think state rep candidate is the actual thing. I don't know if she was already in office or not. She was a candidate for state rep in Stratford.
Did she win?
And he says she won very easily.
Oh, which one was it? Mike Warden's girlfriend? I forget her name.
I don't know. Her name is Susan DeRoy.
Oh, yeah.
I may not be saying. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
That's not the one I was thinking of, but yeah, I don't know her. In what capacity is she accused of being related to the NH Exit group?
Well, some mailers were going out or something along those lines, or flyers, from her one or more of her opponents, accusing her of being associated with us or in favor of our legislation to allow the people to vote on New Hampshire independence.
That makes sense.
So they tried to do what? Get her thrown out?
They just tried to keep her from getting elected by associating her with NH Exit.
Oh, just a smear campaign, like, hey, she's a free stater?
Yeah, it's basically an attack to make her look like a horrible person, like she's anti-government and anarchist, a little wild and crazy.
Yeah, like you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to talk about that, not allowed to think about that, not allowed to even be, I don't even know why people thought she was associated with us. I've never even heard of her.
Me either. But it is good news, actually, that somebody who was getting, really targeted by the Democrats, and they're spending money on this too, won easily. That's a really good thing. Like, I don't think people really hate free staters as much as they wish that people did.
Yep.
It's not Susan DeLemus, is it? It's not her?
No, Susan DeRoy.
Yep, I can't find. I didn't easily find her online, but. Oh, okay.
I haven't been able, as I'm looking over, there's a Ballotopedia article about her, and it doesn't really make clear whether she currently sits or doesn't sit in the House. So I'm getting the impression maybe she was a first-time state rep.
Maybe she was. I had never heard of her. Not that I really know everything about all of them. Seeing a picture of her here, I don't recognize her. Definitely not somebody that's like, oh, a big-time Free Stater, we all hang out with her, or anything like that, but...
I'm wondering why it matters whether or not... do people really dislike Free Staters that much? Like, I've seen signs out by the, where they put a bunch of campaign signs up. I've seen a sign next to those that says Free Stater, or Friends Don't Let Friends Vote for Free Staters.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I'm wondering how popular that sentiment is.
I really think that that's just something they're trying to push, and they're hoping they repeat it long enough, people will start to think that way. But I don't see any evidence of it being actually true, because like even more Republicans won in the House this year than last year. Last year was kind of like tied. Now Republicans like easily have the majority, and I'm not saying that like Republican equals Free Stater, but way more people run as Liberty Republicans than Liberty Democrats, because they really will target you and figure out everything about you if you try to run as a Democrat, and they will primary you. So people run as Liberty Republicans, and maybe that's what this lady is, because like here are some of the things she ran on. Embrace educational freedom. This is on her website, droy4nh.com. And the educational freedom accounts, that is not just Free Staters doing, but a huge amount of supporters of it are Free Staters, and it's, weakening the public schools' grip on, the monopoly they have kind of on, they don't really have a monopoly on education in New Hampshire anymore because of things like the educational freedom account and just like lax laws on homeschooling. Like in Connecticut, it's like almost impossible to homeschool, and definitely almost impossible to not vaccinate your kids and put them in public school. In New Hampshire is really easy. And there's tons of other states like Connecticut where like if your kid is in public school, it's like going to be impossible to send them without vaccines. Like I went to public school in Tennessee, Texas, and Utah without vaccines. My mom just turned in like a religious exemption thing, but like you can't do that in some states. Well, all I'm trying to point out is that she has a few things, and wasteful spending, improve economic development. That might be that saying that she supports getting rid of the zoning laws, because that's a huge thing for the NH reps this year. I really hope that they can get something done with it, like just kind of ending a lot of zoning laws. That's what they want to like tackle this year, which sounds like a really good it sounds like a really good thing for them to tackle, in my opinion, because it'd be easier to build more housing prices can go down, more people can move here. And I don't see what's good about restrictions on what you can and can't do on property you own. So, any other thoughts, Ridley?
That's all I have for you.
Thank you so much for calling in with that. And if anybody wants more from Dave Ridley, they can go to ridleyreport.com. And I already told you who's on Free Talk Live with you here tonight. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was this text message that the FBI is investigating right now. Kind of hilarious. It's like, do they really not have anything else going on? Another thing that brings to mind is all of these things I keep seeing on Twitter where, especially like Libs of TikTok, that's the name of an account run by like not a liberal, she's more like a conservative, I don't know, Republican or something. And she really tries to tell everybody what's going on with the Democrats, like rightfully most of the time. Like, oh, they're doing this crazy thing, or they're saying this crazy thing. Most of the time, I feel like she's not doing anything, like, wrong or anything that I would disagree with, but sometimes she'll post, like, oh my god, a Democrat said this. A Democrat said something that sounds possibly kind of violent against, like, Trump supporters, and tags the FBI. And I always reply on there, like, I don't know why you right-wingers tag the FBI and this stuff like they're gonna, like, they're your little attack dogs, and they're gonna jump on it for you.
They see the FBI as the law of the land, essentially, and they hope the big law of the land is gonna rush in and save them from the Democrats who are saying all these crazy things, when in reality, Ian has said on this show that if you don't like someone's speech, use more speech.
The other thing about it is that they just don't understand, and I do, because I've like been to their offices to pick up things that the FBI stole from them. I've been to a court case where the FBI like had all of its witnesses. Those people are all a bunch of leftist female. Every single one that testified in Ian's case was a female. Leftist, female, blue-haired, liberal, lesbians. Seriously. They're not, like, jumping to attack somebody who said on TikTok, like, something kind of violent against Trump supporters. Trust me. And here's more evidence of it. They're wasting time investigating speech that is kind of racist, I guess. Whatever. Could be construed as that. And it's also kind of funny. Just because it's so ridiculous. Like,
yeah, I'm not surprised at all. The FBI pays people to sit in a room and play on a computer all day and just troll chats.
That's so true.
It doesn't surprise me that they would do that.
It doesn't surprise me either. Like, half the people on Twitter, I wonder, like, is this a real person? Like, not just bots, because bots are definitely a thing on Twitter, but also just, like, somebody that's on the government payroll that gets paid to go and pretend to be some type of a person on the internet.
Patrol.
Yeah, it's
antagonized.
And not only that, but it's a lot easier to just do whatever you want if you're on, if you have one of those government jobs.
That's a good point. So...
This kind of reminds me, though, calling the FBI on people like that. That reminds me of being on the playground. You're all joking around and having a good time, and one kid doesn't like what you're saying, and so they go and tell the adult.
Teacher, this guy's assaulting me and hurting my feels.
Yeah, like, it's like weak culture when everybody is doing things that you can compare it to, like, what little kids do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So this is from the-express.com. It says, racist texts about cotton picking received across U.S. post-election as FBI investigates. The messages were sent anonymously to black men, women, and students, including middle schoolers. I have no clue if they actually, like, specifically were only sent to black people or if they just sent them out to as many people as possible, but here's what the text said. Greetings. You've been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Be ready at 10 p.m. sharp with all your belongings. The executive slaves will come pick you up in brown van. Be prepared to be searched down upon arrival to the plantation. You are in plantation group A.
What the heck?
So ridiculous.
That is really ridiculous, but it's also, I guess I could see how it could be construed as racist, but I don't think it's worth the FBI's time.
Did they find out who sent that out?
I don't think that they have yet. It says a slew of racist text messages alluding to slavery swept across the country this week, hours after Donald Trump was elected for a second term. Who thinks of this stuff is so ridiculous? It says the messages were sent anonymously to black men, women, and students, including middle schoolers. But, it says that they were sent to black men, women, and students, but does that mean that they were only sent to black men, women, and students, or, like, to, like, as many people as possible, and some of those were black?
All over the country? Or?
Yeah.
Wow.
It says that there were reports in several states, including Alabama, Ohio, California, New York, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee.
How was this information found? How did they determine who was black and who wasn't?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand who gets a...
Yeah, I imagine a nerd could write a computer program to just crawl Facebook and find accounts that are associated with a phone number and or also have black people on them, to compile a list of. But that's, I don't know, seems more likely that's probably just an FBI agent.
Wow. Yeah. Somebody like trying to make it look like Trump supporters are racist, maybe?
It's entirely possible. It could be someone who has a vendetta against the outcome of the election and they really want to,
some lefty
show their
that works
displeasure.
at the NSA or something like that. Somebody who just easily already has that information compiled and ready to go.
That is a really good point. It says, while the tone is similar and racist, the contents are slightly different. Oh, I guess there are a couple other ones that my phone or my computer's just not, like, loading right now. That kind of sucks. Be funny to know the other ones. Maybe I can just refresh the page, but it says there was a couple different types of text. There's the one I just read to you about cotton picking. There were some other ones. Some messages asked the recipients to arrive at an address at a particular time with their belongings, while other texts did not include a location. Some of them mentioned the incoming Trump administration. They directed a recipient to go to a plantation and had some instructions about a brown van coming to pick them up. While it is unclear who was behind sending these texts, high school and college students have also received similar texts. The Federal Bureau of Investigation released a statement affirming that they were in touch with the Justice Department over the messages. The Federal Communications Commission is investigating the text alongside federal and state law enforcement. It's like, what are they going to do? Even if you found who sent this, what's illegal about sending a text like this?
I don't think anything's illegal about it. I mean, yeah, it's racist and distasteful, but also it's still free speech.
Yeah.
And investigating free speech is just a waste of time.
ABC reported on Tasha Dunham of Lodi, California, whose 16-year-old daughter received a similar message. Dunham said, "It was very disturbing. I wasn't in slavery. My mother wasn't in slavery, but we're a couple generations away. So when you think about how brutal and awful slavery was for our people, it's awful and concerning." Yeah, but not necessarily illegal. According to Megan Schaefer, the superintendent of the Lower Merion School District, at least 6 middle schoolers in Montgomery County in Pennsylvania received similar disturbing messages. College students at Clemson in South Carolina, Ohio State University, Fisk University, never heard of that, and the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa too received such texts. Fisk is a historically black university in Nashville, and they issued a statement calling out the deeply unsettling messages some of its students received. It says, "However, we wanted to assure you that these are likely the work of an automated bot or malicious actors with no real intentions or credibility. Please remain calm and trust that we are closely monitoring the situation. Our campus safety team is on high alert to ensure your safety." Yeah, so that's all it really did, is maybe freak some people out at first.
That is really dumb. I mean, don't people know anyways that cotton isn't even picked by hand anymore?
Probably not. I mean, they're more focused on being hurt and offended rather than being like, this is so stupid. Whoever sent this was retarded.
I wonder like how many like cotton fields there even are. I've only seen them a few times in my whole life. You know, like driving past them and like, oh, that is a cotton field. It's not as like prolific, I don't think, as it used to be. In the United States, at least. I don't know, maybe it's grown more elsewhere. But yeah, like on the top of my head, if I got this text, I wouldn't know like the closest cotton field to my house. But at a press conference, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, "While they're unaware of the reporting, it does sound concerning." Wow.
Concerning, huh? I don't know. If me and Riley got a text that said, your eyes aren't perfect or working.
Blind people are going to be hauled off somewhere.
You're being sent to a camp for people who don't see 20/20. I don't think we'd be concerned or offended. I think we'd laugh about it.
I would definitely laugh about it. I think it'd be the most hilarious spam text I've ever gotten. And I'd be like, well, I figure, I hope I have enough libertarians around me to be like, yeah, he's not going anywhere.
That's a really good point. Like, I think people are just so used to being under the mercy of whatever department is around them to protect them that might freak them out more than it would freak you out, Riley.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, 99% of the time I get a text that says something like, we need you to come and correct your address so that way you can send your package. Have you seen that one? It's like very common.
Yeah, I get it all the time.
Yeah, I look at that and I'm like, that's fake. I don't know. It doesn't, I don't know. Not that that's the same, but I'm just saying, like, you can instantly tell something's fake.
I think I would be just as offended by it, though, if I were in that situation.
What do you mean?
I think I just mean that it wouldn't be offensive to me at all to catch that kind of a text message. It would just be obviously spam, and I'd ignore it.
I think to a lot of people's minds, this would be like, oh, see, this is proof that, like, America's going in the wrong direction, because, like, people are told on, like, the internet, like, oh, America's getting more and more racist, and Trump's doing it.
There's plenty of proof that America's going in the wrong direction, but it's certainly not that.
Trump is not, the problem. It's the symptom of the problem. He's an example of where America's headed. So,
I think that the Democrats, like, the reason that Trump got elected is mostly because the Democrats, like, put up such a bad, weak candidate.
Oh, of course.
I think people really are tired of identity politics.
I think a lot of people are too. I think people just don't like the transgender they, them pronouns being shoved in their face every 10 minutes.
Yeah, they bombed that one so bad that it almost seems intentional.
Yeah,
she was just horrible the whole campaign, and then her concession speech actually almost sounded halfway smart. Like, what's with that?
One thing I saw today, I have no clue how she could possibly know this or be reporting it, but that lady from the Young Turks, Anna Kasparian, all I saw was a clip where she was saying, so apparently the plan was always to have another primary during the DNC, but as soon as they told Biden he was going to be kicked off and not be the one running against Trump, he was mad and he basically went off and all by himself publicly got behind, what's the word, endorsed Kamala, and then they just had to go with her, and he did it as an F you to the Democrats. And I'm just I have no clue if that's true, but it would be kind of funny.
That would be kind of funny.
I don't know. It seems untrue. It's a funny thing to think about, though.
And during Kamala's whole campaign, Biden kind of disappeared, and when he did come out, there was a couple times he joked around, he put on a MAGA hat, a Make America Great Again hat, and made a joke where he was don't be eating cats and dogs, everyone, and he was he knew he was on camera. There was people around him, and he was making a joke.
That's funny.
And
I heard that one. I didn't see it. I thought it was a deep fake or something.
No,
it was a fake video.
I saw two different angles of it, and the second one you could actually hear what he was saying, and he made a joke about don't be out there eating cats and dogs, people. And it just doesn't sound like someone who hates Trump would be saying.
Yeah, that's because it's all WWE and they all just go and have beers after the show.
Yeah, that is all true.
That's funny. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, politics is an ugly game. You got to put on the show for the plebes who think this is so real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it's far more real for voters than it is for politicians.
Yeah.
It's like in court. Oh my God, it's so frustrating every time you see your lawyer laughing and joking around with the freaking prosecution. It's I don't even know.
Yep, that's why I won't use a lawyer ever again.
Yeah, I don't blame you. We do have a caller on the line. Peter in Virginia, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi, thanks for taking my call quickly. Appreciate that. I just wanted to kind of leave some feedback here. I'm kind of surprised. This iteration of Trump's administration, so Trump 2.0 or something, about his picks on people, that are leading certain agencies or committees or whatever. I was just reading, Tulsi Gabbard is leading some sort of committee on national intelligence. I was reading yesterday his pick of the CIA director, and also
CIA director.
Trolling.
Yeah.
Who was that? I didn't see that one.
It could be John Ratcliffe. I'm not too sure who he is, but I was just reading that apparently people don't like the guy. So my assumption is
if people the deep state or career politicians or whatever don't like you, most likely it means you're not with them. But all to say, a lot of the people that were with him his first time as president don't seem to be there this time. And I think that's a net positive, right? These guys haven't started working yet, so I can't fully say these guys are amazing, they're actually changing things, but on paper things seem to be lined up for a better round this time relative to 2016. The one concern I still have, regardless of the fact that these people are in office, is the fact that they're in DC, so we don't know for a fact with 100% certainty that they're going to cut federal spending.
Okay, if you want to talk more about that, we're about to go on a break, but we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, it's Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson.
Congratulations. Thank you.
President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met at the White House as the two men prepare for the transfer of power. Trump will return to the Oval Office in January after winning last week's U.S. presidential election. Biden called for a smooth transition to the next administration, and the president-elect agreed.
A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe. You're welcome.
Trump is also continuing to announce several high-level cabinet appointments. That includes offering a Fox News anchor the job of leading the military and a new position for Elon Musk, the world's richest person. Here's Mitch McCann with more.
Pete Hegseth, who co-hosts the weekend TV show Fox and Friends on the Fox News channel, is set for a significant promotion, leading America's 1.3 million active duty troops as the Secretary of Defense. Hegseth is a combat veteran, having served in tours to Afghanistan and Iraq and was stationed at Guantanamo Bay. However, he lacks political experience for such a senior government role. Mr. Trump has also found jobs for key allies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The pair are set to lead a Department of Government Efficiency aimed at reducing wasteful spending and bureaucracy in the government. Mitch McCann, New York.
Donald Trump is still facing several criminal cases in the U.S. The prosecutor leading two of them will step down before the president-elect takes office. Reports from the New York Times says special counsel Jack Smith and his team plan to resign after winding down both federal cases facing the former president. In one of those cases, Trump allegedly took classified documents out of the White House. In the other, he's charged with attempting to interfere in the 2020 election outcome. Neither have gone to trial, and now it's unlikely either will. Trump maintains his innocence in both. Staying in the US, Republican senators have chosen their new leader. John Thune has won the race to succeed Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. Thune, a South Dakota senator, won Wednesday's secret ballot to become the majority leader of Congress's upper chamber.
This Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
And residents of India's capital, New Delhi, are experiencing a thick layer of toxic smog blanketing their city. With winter approaching, the air quality there has dipped to what officials call severe levels. Reporter Ishan Garg is in Delhi.
New Delhi's PM 2.5 pollutant levels are currently 70 times what the World Health Organization considers tolerable. Residents can be seen wearing masks on the road as they battle a perennial problem with no immediate relief in sight.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number to call to get in on the conversation with us. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, Digital Cash. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project with a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us $32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Stu, and Riley.
And the last caller called in to say that he was basically a little optimistic about some of the Trump picks. I think they're kind of like rumors just now, or right now. Well, I've definitely seen some that were reported as Trump announced that is his pick. So, like, Elon Musk was actually announced as Trump's pick to lead Doge, which is the the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah.
Which is a new department that like Trump and Elon Musk have been talking about, and then flirting with the idea of having Ron Paul help, so that would be amazing. We have a few different stories tonight that we all brought in about some of Trump's picks, and most of these people, like, I don't know anything about them, and like, even with Elon Musk, he's like a wild card to me. Like, I feel like it's very possible that he understands a little bit of like libertarian ideas. Like, he tweets Rothbard and stuff like that sometimes.
Hopefully Elon Musk is a good Trump pick, because, you know, just the idea of a Department of Government Efficiency, it sounds like an oxymoron to me, because I know from experience that, you know, the government does things to make it sound good, but ends up being bad. So maybe the Department of Government Efficiency is going to, you know, make the government less efficient. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It usually does the opposite of what it's named.
So we'll get into what it's supposed to do. What I've heard so far is that it's supposed to be all about cutting unneeded things out of the government. Like, famously, when Elon Musk took over Twitter, there were thousands of employees that he found were doing nothing, and he fired so many people. They were having like these like fits on social media, like, I can't believe I worked for Twitter for 2 years and I just got fired. And it was like, well, what do you do? And they're like, it would show like these people's, like, they have already posted on TikTok or something, a day in the life, come with me working at Twitter. And it was like, and then I go into the lounge and I decompress for a while, and then I eat some yogurt. Nice. Yeah.
That's no work at all.
So they like weren't working or anything. So obviously Elon Musk cut out like 1,000 people out of Twitter. That might have all like been like some kind of a. Sometimes I think about this stuff as like, oh, they're playing like a long game, and Elon Musk created this whole situation to where he would be able to say like, see, I should be able to get into the government, and I'll be just like Malay, like cutting things out of the government.
Elon Musk is wild. I wouldn't be surprised if he came up with something totally harebrained, like, well, let's just stop paying for the roads, and then we'll build airways and then we'll make hover cars.
Oh my god.
Interesting.
Which, like, I'm not even against hover cars. New Hampshire is one of the only states that have not made hover cars illegal, because they were already invented.
Yep, those exist, and they probably would have been common 50 years ago if government hadn't been holding us back this whole time.
Yep, there's federal laws against them after people invented them already, and I don't know how many people know that. I don't know exactly what year. We did a story about it once, just like basically telling the story type of story about it from like Fee or something.
Yep, you can get flying Ubers in Dubai that'll pick you up on like the 90th floor of whatever gigantic tower. Yeah, you can get flying taxis.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
What are they, like helicopters?
No, I don't know. They're I'm not sure exactly how they. I think they kind of look like a drone.
I would be way too scared to do that.
That would be remote controlled, but it's, you know, big enough, it has a seat in it and whatever.
One of my own, like, concocted by myself, what's the word, conspiracy theories, is that the Hindenburg, I think is what it was called, the Hindenburg, I always get the name wrong.
Hindenburg,
yeah. This big story where there was supposed to be this really large blimp, basically. Like, it was filled with hot air, flew through the sky slowly, like one of those blimps, but it was a huge one, and it was going to be like a commercial, like it was going to be as common as commercial airplanes nowadays. And it took off, and everybody's excited, and then it caught fire, people died, and like there's this famous recording of a news reporter, like crying about it.
Yep, they made a way bigger deal out of that than it needed to be, and those things were pretty safe. Dirigibles would have been a way better way for air travel.
And I really think that, like, if that didn't happen, like, they didn't purposely scare people about it, like, imagine you're like one of these, like, basically like sheeple that everybody was in like the 50s when you only had like a couple ways to get information.
The government and ABC News or CNBC or whatever networks were allowed. I don't remember if it was ABC or CBS or one of those big networks. You only had like 2 or 3, so
yeah.
You know,
you didn't have the internet.
Not a lot of news
brought
outlets.
to you by Walter Cronkite or whoever.
So you're listening to the radio and you hear this guy crying about, oh, it's so awful, the Hindenburg is on fire, and oh my God, and then you're like, oh my God, that's so dangerous, and then they make laws probably. Well, I really think today, if all that didn't happen, we'd have our own little blimps, and I would be so much more okay with flying a blimp personally, like slowly through the sky. Oh, I'm gonna land next to Hannaford and I'm going to fly back home, than I would be to fly a plane. Like, personally, I would never fly a plane. But it's not about heights. It's more about the landing.
It would probably be a lot safer than driving a car, too.
Probably would, seriously. And it would be, like, actually beautiful to have, like everybody had their own blimps, and they, like, you know, dirigible, whatever you want to call it, even hot air balloons, and they, like, could decorate them. That would be a lot more beautiful to see than, like, what I imagine the, like, if Elon Musk comes out with some kind of, like, flying car, it's going to be hideous.
Yeah, I've heard the Cybertruck looks hideous, but I wouldn't know. I've never seen one.
I don't hate it as much as everyone else. I think it's kind of a bit cool. I've seen them in Keen, too, which looks so out of place. You're like, oh my God, look at that. It looks mostly like really shiny silver and bigger than any other car on the road, and has really, like, sharp angles.
Mm-hmm. Looks like something out of Back to the Future, too.
People think it's, like, so hideous. I don't think it's like, oh my God, we're calling it, like, hideous. I don't know. I also just think that it's not amazing. I don't know. So, yeah, I'm just not, like, a car person, to be honest. I don't like, take that as some kind of, like, serious, like, opinion of mine. I don't really care about cars. So, Elon Musk to co-lead Trump's new Doge. And also, Dogecoin price reacts sharply. I didn't really look at Doge as far as all of the, like, Bitcoin. As I was sitting here, I got an alert on my phone that said Bitcoin hit 90,000. Went into the 90,000s. Its all-time high was like 89,000 yesterday. So it's just hitting all-time highs. I think that if Kamala Harris would have won, then Bitcoin would have went to zero. No, I'm just kidding.
It probably wouldn't have. I mean, it would. I don't know if it would gone up
It'd
or
probably
down.
see a little correction and stay where it was.
Yeah.
I don't actually think it'd go to zero as a joke, but I do think that it would. Like, I really think this is related to Trump winning, people being optimistic.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't blame them for being, like, optimistic. I just think that a lot of people don't understand that, like, the only way that Trump's economy could be, like, much better than Biden's is if Trump just goes and, like, uses Doge to actually, like, as in the Department of Government Efficiency, to cut tons of stuff, like, cut tons of spending and stuff. Otherwise, like, honestly, the economy could, like, break down, and they're just letting Trump win in order to blame it on him, because like, economics don't just pause because of who the president is.
No.
We're deeply in debt.
No, that's all decided by bankers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they write the script anyways, and Trump's been probably groomed for this his whole life. It's all a show.
Yeah, that's all very possible. I always think of these things like two parts of my mind. It's the same exact way I think of celebrities. I'm like, oh, I love this blah, 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 blah song by Lady Gaga. And then on the other side of my head, I'm like, now, how are they using this song to manipulate people? It's like, I don't know. I can think of it both ways.
Yep.
Like, then you're not surprised.
And that's a good point too, because it does have a certain level of reality, just because in the same way that WWE does, the fans sometimes get a little nuts, and sometimes one of the actors gets thrown into the audience, and they all, like, put a lot of time and energy into their signs, and they're all very passionate about it.
Well,
so it kind of makes it real.
When we've seen the bread and circuses of the politics show enough here in our world, we tend to be a little more suspicious of politicians. And I think, this time of great power for, the right, so to speak, and some libertarian type people may give us an opportunity to, shrink the size of government, hopefully. But also, it's going to give us an opportunity to really see, again, what a Trump 2.0 administration will look like. Is he going to free Ross? Is he going to keep his promises like he claims he will, or is he going to be a politician?
Yeah, Ross better be out by February. I want to see him at PorcFest this year.
I finally saw, like, his actual reaction to Trump winning for the first time. On Twitter, he obviously he has family members tweet for him, and he tweeted something like, oh, I just heard the news that Trump won, and thanks everybody who voted for Trump for me, he said. And that he's really like, he finally sees the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's just so incredible. And it would be so sad if Trump didn't do it. But I don't really believe that's going to happen, honestly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he probably will.
There was a person who said, like, this isn't like a proving quote by Trump, but there was somebody that knows Dave Smith, I think it was, that told Dave Smith that he knows somebody, so it's like definitely not confirmed, that talked to Trump and said, I'm a libertarian. He said, those libertarians, all they care about is freeing that kid. Like, in a kind of like, wow, it's crazy, isn't it? kind of way. So, like, he remembers. He's tweeted about it multiple times.
Yeah, it is a pretty big deal to liberty-minded people that know the story.
And I think it's really, really nice. I think it makes sense. Trump is like, okay, give me the things that, like, libertarians are, like, religiously care about. And I'm going to make a deal with them based on that, because it's kind of how he does things with the Republicans, whether they know it or not.
He likes to make deals. He's, done deals for so long, and this is just another deal to him. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. And, to us here on Free Talk Live, Ross Ulbricht is rather important because he's been put in a cage for essentially programming a website, not the buying and selling of drugs or hiring hitmen, but programming a website.
His website saved my friend's life. He really believes that.
Yeah, it made a dangerous marketplace safer.
Yep. Maybe it probably saved people's lives who don't even know it. You know?
I can imagine.
We do have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to the caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's in your mind?
You know how the police look the other way when one of their own violates someone else's rights? They never find any wrongdoing.
Sure.
That's how you guys act with Ross Ulbricht, by turning the other way.
No, we just don't believe that.
Hires.
I know that you want to just call in and say this all the time as if it's fact, but we don't believe it. You tend to believe things government says, and we don't. So.
Yeah, it's absolutely
how is that not
provable.
Acting like? Not provable. Oh, the Bitcoin tracing is not provable. The logs found on his laptop are not provable.
Yep, not provable.
The fact that all the evidence that shows he was. There were
more
other
people than one that had access to the DPR login.
No, not to his personal wallet on his laptop. That wasn't a wallet on the Silk Road. That wasn't an escrow wallet or an admin wallet. That was his personal wallet.
There was actually people who had access to his computer at some point and stole Bitcoins from it. So, like, why should I believe anything that it says?
I don't think that was the case. There was no evidence anyone ever stole from his personal Bitcoin.
Yes, they were. There were FBI agents who went to prison for it.
No, they stole from the escrow.
Sounds like you don't know very much about this story, Skeeter.
No,
Maybe you should talk about something else.
They stole from the escrow wallets from Silk Road, not his personal wallets.
Okay.
You guys don't know what you're talking about. Also, Bonnie, you don't know what you're talking about with that example of secession you gave the other time. I wanted to call you out on that.
About Maine, do you think Maine and Maryland, or sorry, Maine and Massachusetts had a deadly fight to secede?
That wasn't the secession you're trying to analogize you guys yourself with.
You asked me one question and I answered correctly immediately, and then you said because he asked me, give me an example. I didn't hang up on you. Lori was first here. So he asked me, give me an example of secession happening peacefully, and I said Maine and Massachusetts, and he said like for literally like 3 seconds, and it was hilarious. And Lori hung up on him.
And I said, and what were the conditions? I said unilateral peaceful
No, you didn't. You said no before Lori hung up on you, and it was hilarious.
That was
and you didn't give me any conditions. Like, you asked me to give you an example of a peaceful secession that happened in history, and I gave you one.
A unilateral one.
You didn't say any of that. You didn't say any of this dumb crap.
I said unilateral.
Okay, right? What do you mean by that?
This is where both sides agree. This is not only a bilateral secession, it's actually a trilateral secession, intra-union secession. The only way they got secession is because they were granted statehood from the Union. Is that what you're analogizing you guys yourself with?
Even if I never was analogizing New Hampshire to it.
Why do you like to collectivize everyone so much?
He's just like so boring to talk to because like we've had this exact conversation about Ross with him. He doesn't like accept anything we're talking or like saying. He just likes to repeat things that like even if like we had no idea that like Ross had been accused of something, he doesn't have proof of it any more than anyone else does. The FBI just said stuff about him, poisoned his case, and now he's in prison. So thanks for the call. I don't know why he's so scared of Lori. He's so scared of Lori. He's only called in one time that she's been on in like 2 months recently. And I really wish he would just like not call in when I'm on because it's really boring. And then like he asks the question, I answer, and then he's like, no, I also said like these other things. Like I don't really believe that he said that because everybody at once was like laughing at him and he was like, no, but, and then Lori hung up. That was it.
Yeah, she's been getting really good at ending his calls too, where he just totally blunders and she uses it at the perfect timing.
Yeah, it's really funny. So back to this DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Inefficiency? Just kidding.
We don't know yet. It has yet to prove itself.
I hope it's making it more efficient, but who knows?
So the article from AMBcrypto.com says, is this a government reform or a mere crypto game? I don't really see this all being just to pump Doge for Elon Musk. Like,
whether or not Doge has been pumping.
Yeah, true. But I mean, like, he did that before. I was like, I don't know, is he just going to keep doing that forever instead of just putting his money into Bitcoin? Probably do better than, like, consistently trying to play with the whole world and pump Doge once a 5 years, you know?
Yeah, I don't know why Elon loves Doge so much, just unless it's just that he wants to be beloved by the internet nerds.
Yeah.
Maybe so. Maybe he's just a troll.
It would be, like, quite a fun game to play if you had the ability to do these huge things on, like, the world stage that pump a Bitcoin all in your own doing just for fun. I don't know. Could be like some weird little game for him. But this says, as anticipated, Donald Trump, the now U.S. president, announced plans to establish a new Department of Government Efficiency. With tech magnate, I never knew what that word means. The tech magnate, is it just like a business owner?
Magnate is like it's like a bigwig or kind of like a whale.
Oh, okay. Yeah. With tech magnate Elon Musk and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy as the leaders. I kind of forgot Vivek is involved in it, so I don't know. I think he's like a lot better as being as far as being like consistent philosophically with what you would think the Department of Government Efficiency would need than Elon Musk. So hopefully he helps inspire or influence Elon Musk in that way. But we do have a caller on the line. We have Creighton in Kentucky. Creighton, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to call in. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but RFK Jr. has put up a website so that people can nominate people for Donald Trump's incoming cabinet.
Wow.
Interesting.
And Brandon Hiera, who is a big libertarian gun guy from Texas on YouTube, has been nominated for the director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
By Trump or on the website?
I'm sorry?
By Trump or on this website?
On this website.
Okay.
And he's leading in the vote. Now, it doesn't mean that necessarily that it will mean anything to Trump, but he seems to be that he actually can take influence from the people that voted for him. Because I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention, but Dave Smith, the libertarian that was supposed to be a candidate for the Libertarian Party but dropped out, lobbied against several neocon individuals that were in Trump's last cabinet that they not be reinstated. And Trump has actually openly confirmed that they would not be invited back into his cabinet.
Nice.
So there is an effect.
I think he even admitted that it was a bit of a mistake appointing certain people like John Bolton and some other neocon types.
Yeah, I don't know the exact names of them, but on Joe Rogan, Joe straight up asked him, why was it that everybody was excited for you to win last time, and then everybody was disappointed that some of the people you put into your cabinet were kind of swamp creatures themselves? And he said, honestly, back then, I just didn't know who was good and who was bad, and I had so many people around me influencing me that I made some mistakes. Like, he admitted that. Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff.
I wanted to bring up this website. I believe it's called forthepeople.com, where they're taking nominations for people in the administration. And it's important, it's kind of a big deal because, the president only actually nominates about 100 people. And each of those department heads can nominate as many as 100 of their own people. So Trump himself doesn't actually choose all the people in the executive branch in his entire structure, which should be obvious if you stop and think about it. So having people that are nominated that he wouldn't necessarily know anything about himself, coming from down below, from the grassroots, and being recommended by the people themselves, might actually do great good.
Interesting.
This says that the submissions are now closed, but I think you can go on there and be able to vote for the ones that have been nominated that you like. Welcome to Nominees for the People. It's discourse.nomineesforthepeople.com. And there's all these different ones like health, environmental, natural resources, and you can click on them, and I'm not sure what you can do with it, but really interesting stuff. Here's some of the nominees right here. And they're all, it's Flora, Ammon Bundy for environmental and natural, Ammon.
Yeah.
For environmental and natural resources. I don't know what department that is. I don't want to be trying to go through, Department of the Interior. Wow. Interesting. That's really cool. Oh, and other things he would be, the nominator feels he would be best suited for is the Bureau of Land Management.
That'd be perfect for Ammon Bundy.
That would be insane. That would be so funny.
It would be insane because him and I think it was his dad, Cliven, went up against the feds in 2014, so it'd be really interesting if he got that position.
Another one I notice here is Milo Yiannopoulos. He's pretty great. He's somebody that helped me really understand a lot of what leftists saying. Why is it bad? Why is it bad what some of the things leftists are saying? And actually be able to say that other than just being I'm not just a mind-controlled right-winger either,
Yep, I liked him before he kind of lost his mind after he became unpopular.
Yeah, that's true. He seemed to have lost his mind going anti, trying to detransition himself from being gay and stuff like that. Also, he doesn't bleach his hair well enough anymore. It's really yellow and orange, and he has a neck beard. Thank you for the call, Creighton. 603-283-6160. It's really interesting stuff. I'm going to go check out this site during the break, but we'll be right back. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999. and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met at the White House as the two men prepare for the transfer of power. Trump will return to the Oval Office in January after winning last week's U.S. presidential election. Biden called for a smooth transition to the next administration, and the president-elect agreed.
A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim. You're welcome.
Trump is also continuing to announce several high-level cabinet appointments. That includes offering a Fox News anchor the job of leading the military and a new position for Elon Musk, the world's richest person. Here's Mitch McCann with more.
Pete Hesketh, who co-hosts the weekend TV show Fox and Friends on the Fox News channel, is set for a significant promotion, leading America's 1.3 million active duty troops as the Secretary of Defense. Hesketh is a combat veteran, having served in tours to Afghanistan and Iraq and was stationed at Guantanamo Bay. However, he lacks political experience for such a senior government role. Mr. Trump has also found jobs for key allies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The pair are set to lead a Department of Government Efficiency aimed at reducing wasteful spending and bureaucracy in the government. Mitch McCann, New York.
Donald Trump is still facing several criminal cases in the U.S. The prosecutor leading two of them will step down before the president-elect takes office. Reports from the New York Times says special counsel Jack Smith and his team plan to resign after winding down both federal cases facing the former president. In one of those cases, Trump allegedly took classified documents out of the White House. In the other, he's charged with attempting to interfere in the 2020 election outcome. Neither have gone to trial, and now it's unlikely either will. Trump maintains his innocence in both. Staying in the US, Republican senators have chosen their new leader. John Thune has won the race to succeed Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. Thune, a South Dakota senator, won Wednesday's secret ballot to become the majority leader of Congress's upper chamber.
This Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
And residents of India's capital, New Delhi, are experiencing a thick layer of toxic smog blanketing their city. With winter approaching, the air quality there has dipped to what officials call severe levels. Reporter Ishan Garg is in Delhi.
New Delhi's PM 2.5 pollutant levels are currently 70 times what the World Health Organization considers tolerable. Residents can be seen wearing masks on the road as they battle a perennial problem with no immediate relief in sight.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, with more today on the resignation of the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, the man who presided over Queen Elizabeth II's funeral and then King Charles's coronation, and who has spent 10 years at the helm of the Anglican Church. He has stepped down after an investigation revealed that he had failed to report historical physical and sexual abuse by a volunteer at a Christian camp when he learnt about it in 2013. Bishop Stephen Lowe is a former advisor to the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Rowan Williams.
I feel very sad that it's taken a lot of pressure from a lot of people to actually decide that it's the right thing to do. He cannot get away with saying, I did some shameful things in terms of effectively covering up and not pursuing the abuser after it became quite clear that he should be dealt with, preventing further abuse. And that is shameful. And once you say something is, I've done something shameful and have caused effectively people to be abused, then there is no option, in my view, for him to actually resign.
Justin Welby said he was leaving his position in sorrow. A lengthy process now begins to determine his successor, and it is expected that could take as long as 6 months to resolve. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, US President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met at the White House as the two men prepare for the transfer of power. Republican lawmakers have chosen their new leader of the US Senate. John Thune has won the race to succeed Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. And residents of India's capital, New Delhi, are experiencing a thick layer of toxic smog, with officials calling pollution there severe. That's the latest Feature Story News. Sally Patterson reporting.
Medical experts announced that an Ebola vaccine is at least 50 white people away from being developed. The CIA is now ready to install a female world leader, and a sex toy is discreetly shipped in a plain dildo-shaped box. Rising to the top of the video news summary game through an unstoppable combination of glad-handing and payoffs, this is the Onion Week in Review. Reflecting on his accomplishments and questioning his current abilities, the Lord God Almighty, our Heavenly Father and Blessed Savior, told reporters that he was no longer confident whether he would be able to create the world in only 7 days. He who commanded light to shine from the darkness admitted that the mere thought of producing the entirety of the universe from nothingness, a task he once completed with time to spare, had become surprisingly daunting, and added that creating a small, lifeless moon or asteroid now seemed like a more realistic goal. In this week's science news, psychology comes to a halt as weary researchers say the mind cannot possibly study itself.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. You're welcome to call in about whatever is on your mind, change the subject, or tell us what you think about what we're saying. It's up to you because it's Free Talk Live, and not your key is not your Bitcoin is a lesson that too many people have learned the hard way. It's always best to get your crypto into a wallet that you control, but not all wallets are equal. Many of our hosts have been using Edge for years to manage crypto, and there just aren't many wallets to compare. Featuring a unique login system that makes it easier for you to access your crypto from multiple devices, Edge is designed to be user-friendly. In a space that can be notoriously difficult for non-tech people, Edge is a valuable tool for novices and experts alike. You can learn more at edge.app, that's edge.app, which features a link at the top for those who wish to learn more about crypto and wallets. Thanks again to Edge for sponsoring Free Talk Live. And again, to learn more, visit edge.app. And with you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie.
Riley.
And Stu.
Riley. And Riley. Sorry, Stu.
I've done that before. You're in the third chair right now. I'm just kidding. I've done the same thing before.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. And we're doing it live, so we can't edit anything out.
Yep. It's all good. It's me, Stu, and Riley on the show tonight. And what we were talking about in the last segment, was just basically this whole make America healthy again thing from RFK, and also the make government efficient thing from Elon Musk. It seems to be two things that Trump is actually like flirting with, thinking about. I'm really seriously hesitant with the RFK's make America healthy again. I don't think just because seed oils, you've heard me say it a million times, like I don't eat seed oils, they're bad. That doesn't mean they should be made illegal. I really hope that we don't end up telling...
Wait, so I can put seed oils in my body?
Yeah, you should be allowed to.
Okay, well, I'm going to go get some seed oils then.
I don't think you should. See how that works? See how easy that is, RFK? You don't need to turn us into Europe where things are like tons of things are illegal. Like you just don't need to. People can just learn and make their own decisions by themselves. And if they don't, maybe those types of people should die.
I think my big concern about the people on the right and, having Trump in power is they're going to start, doing things that they love with their government power, not realizing that what they're doing is the same thing the left does and banning things that they don't like the left does. And they're going to play leftists with government like every other single politician before them, and it's just going to be a Trump show.
And then they're also going to like make things to where they can do whatever they want and then be like, yeah, now we can do whatever we want. And in 4 years, a Democrat's going to get elected and use those same means.
Yeah, exactly. And so, when they hand their political enemies the power that they obtained, remember, your political enemies are going to use that power too. And they're going to turn around and stick the political gun in your face. So maybe you shouldn't let the government have the power you don't want your political enemies to have.
The other thing is, like, even if RFK is right on tons of things, I don't really know all of his, like, health, thoughts. That doesn't mean I agree with him on everything, and I don't want him to have any control over what I can and can't put in my body. It really freaks me out. For all I know, he's going to start off saying things are like, okay, good, and then say something like, you need to get some certain amount of something I don't want to eat. And it's not like, I don't really think it's going to be as much power given to him as like, oh, I'm not going to be able to find certain things in the grocery store anymore, but I don't
even think the government should be dictating to us what our health should be.
Like most people out there talking about nutrition believe that sugar is bad for you, and I don't. So like I'm like a extreme minority in that, and I don't want people to be dictating to me what is healthy. Like it really freaks me out actually. Like if RFK is out there telling people that like keto is healthy, I disagree so hard, and I also think that people should be free to be keto if they want,
Exactly.
So that's all I'm saying. I'm just like really hesitant with RFK, but caller called in the last segment to tell us that RFK made this forum, and it's called it's called discourse.nomineesforthepeople.com. I just made an account so I can vote, and it's the nominating process is already over, but you can go on there and vote. One that I found pretty funny during the break was the one for education. New submissions are currently paused. Maybe it's not over, but currently paused. Well, the one that's winning right now is Thomas Sowell for education.
Oh, yeah, he'd be great for
insane.
education.
Yeah, he's kind of old, isn't he? Like, I wonder if he's interested at all. I wonder if most of these people are interested at all, but...
Maybe they should nominate Lysander Spooner and see how well he does. I mean, he's dead after all, so who knows?
One vote for Jeffrey Epstein. Luke Rudkowski.
Rudowski?
I was told recently by somebody that it's not Rudowski. I can't remember how to actually say it, but whatever. It's Polish. Like, that's not normal. I mean, common in America for us to be able to understand.
I'm pretty sure you can just say Rudowski and that's okay.
Yeah, I know. I tried to say it the way I heard was right recently, and while looking at it, I was like, yeah, my brain doesn't even know remember at this point what the person said. Anyways, yeah, there was him on there, but it only had one vote. There was 700 votes for Thomas Sowell. Really interesting stuff. I'm not just going to go through and read them all right now, because who knows if that even will influence anyone, but it seems like all arrows point to Trump is actually being a little bit influenced this year by people, and maybe he was like always a bit easy to influence, but we didn't know it, because like he said people around him in DC just started telling him who to pick last time, and he just like randomly picked them. He said he didn't really expect to get there.
Someone ought to tell him to pick Samwise Gamgee, and he'll be influenced to just throw the Ring of Power right into the fire.
Who is he?
It's just Hobbit stuff.
Oh.
it's just the idea.
It's one of the characters in Lord of the Rings.
That if he gets all the power in his hand, maybe he could just throw it away so that nobody can do it anymore.
There's this really funny, like, I'm sure some people listening are like longtime listeners of Free Talk Live, and there's this really funny meme someone made with Mark turning into Schmeagol, and he's like, wait, Ian, now that I have the golden gun of power, I can use it to ... and Ian is like Frodo, and he's saying, no, we have to throw it into the fire of Mordor. It's just really funny.
That is funny.
Because Mark is a minarchist. Yeah, it's really funny. Oh my god, I share that all the time. I'll share it with you too if you want. Well, anyways, so we started reading this article from ambcrypto.com, ambcrypto.com, and it's about Elon Musk and his new Doge project. So let's see what we can learn about it, because Doge in this case doesn't actually stand for the crypto, but it's like just like a obviously on purpose funny coincidence, quote unquote. They named the Department of Government Efficiency. It's going to be a new department in the government, which people always ask, like, well, can Trump do that? Well, presidents are the ones that are in charge of creating all these departments. Like,
I think he has to go through Congress first to create a new department.
Way to get going on more efficiency there.
I don't think he has to, because Nixon just created the FDA. Like, that's part of, like, one of the things that what is his branch called? I can't remember all of a sudden. Executive branch is allowed to do. I don't know if like Congress can just say no or something, but I don't know. And it's all Republican right now, so they probably won't. But it says, as anticipated, Donald Trump, the now U.S. president, well, really like president-elect. I hope he doesn't die before he gets turned into the actual president. But announced plans to establish a new Department of Government Efficiency with tech magnate Elon Musk and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy as the leaders. For those unaware, the department aims to overhaul government operations by cutting bureaucratic waste and enhancing efficiency. Which also the other thing is, like, do I want government to be more efficient at things? Like,
that's where my mind goes with it.
Yeah, I don't think I want the government to be more efficient than anything. I want it to go away.
And not only that, but the Reagan, what do they call it? Deregulation. That didn't have exactly the effect that everybody wanted, and so he, what did it do? It just made things easier for large corporations and didn't do anything for, people who just wanted to be able to start a company or a small business. And his apologetic for it was the whole trickle down thing. We made the rich guys richer, and so they're gonna hire you and you'll have a job. And
with Vivek being an entrepreneur and Elon Musk being like the biggest entrepreneur, that almost seems like a hint that it could be going that way.
Yeah, it's just going to make them richer and more powerful, and so the poor will get poorer and the rich will get richer.
Well, it says, with this initiative, Trump intends to significantly reduce federal spending and reform regulatory policies, hinting at a substantial shift in how Washington could operate under his administration. Remarking on the same, in a statement, Trump said, "Together, these two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies."
So I wonder if he's going to go after the Pentagon, since they, lose trillions of dollars all the time.
Yeah, they seriously do. And then they talk like, well, we're doing better than last year because we lost only $2 trillion instead of $3 trillion this year. We're always getting better. It's so weird. Like they'll say that trillions of dollars are unaccounted for. Well, maybe billions. I don't remember now.
Yeah, it's more money than they're spending on Black Ops too.
Whoa.
Leads me to believe that the conspiracy theories, quote unquote, about secret space program might actually be true.
Wow.
Interesting.
If you listen to Trump's interview on Joe Rogan, he literally said that, like, he talked to some people that were in the Air Force and told him basically it's all true. And he was like, listen, this isn't like my number one interest or anything, but I believe these good men, these Air Force guys that came and told me what they've seen. But he said he couldn't tell Joe Rogan everything he knows. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I mean, it could all be more WWE.
Or maybe Trump's just a storyteller.
Yeah, it could be all more WWE, like a lot of this stuff could totally be. But I don't really need Trump to tell me UFOs exist because I've seen one. So
I've never seen one.
I'm sure Trump knows the truth about what's going on. His uncle worked for the FBI and was able to get his hands on all of Tesla's papers after they ruined that man.
Oh my
Nikola
God.
Tesla we're talking about.
So you can't tell me Donald Trump's an outsider.
Yeah. That's creepy. So how did Musk and Ramaswamy react? Responding to this, Vivek Ramaswamy noted, Doge will soon begin crowdsourcing examples of government waste, fraud, and abuse. Americans voted for drastic government reform, and they deserve to be part of fixing it. In a separate tweet, he issued a warning stating, "We will not go gently." And Musk echoed the sentiment and suggested this will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people. You know, like similar but totally unrelated. In the last couple days, we've had a caller that calls and tells us everything about Argentina. He's like an expert. He lives in New Hampshire, but his wife's Argentinian and he's just really interested in it. And he's like a huge Malay supporter. Well, he told our listeners all about the Kirchners before. They're a family that's like super powerful down there, and they have been just like blatantly stealing from the Argentinians and using the government to do it. Like this one lady, Cristina de Fernandez de Kirchner, I think is how her name is said. She was president, and she was like money laundering so much money. Well, under Milei, he just put her in prison for 6 years.
Wow.
That's like, that doesn't happen here. So, I don't know.
Be interesting if he did start putting the crooked politicians into prison cells.
It would be interesting. I mean, the caller who calls in, his name's Scott, he said that Cristina Kirchner is like directly responsible for ruining family members he knows lives and businesses and like condemning them to poverty. So he's not sad at all. I was like, wow, that is like huge news. I don't know. Maybe that's something that like the type of things we could see here with Doge. I just don't know. I'm typically just super optimistic in general, like in my entire life. So I just don't really know what's going to happen with this.
I don't know either. And we can pontificate all we want on the radio and talk about it, but the reality is we don't know what Trump's going to do. He's kind of a wild card, but It'll be interesting to see what happens.
We're talking about like 3 different wild cards right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like him and Elon and even, I don't know, kind of Ramaswamy. He also, like, I used to really hate him because he said he wanted to start war in Mexico and just bomb the cartels. It's crazy.
That may still happen. That is kind of crazy.
And then Trump started saying, like, you know what, I like that idea too. So I really hope that doesn't happen.
I hope so too, because, you know, the war on drugs is going to continue being the drug war with these people in charge, and I almost wonder if they're going to crack down on cannabis regulation.
I wonder if those guys know they could put an end to it if they just talk to the CIA guys.
What do you mean?
Well, just the international drug cartel is the CIA. That's their department.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's like, do they think that we're stupid? Like, so many, like, DEA whistleblowers have come out and said, like, oh, it's just, you know, our government giving huge amounts of money to the cartels and making all these deals. Like, I'm pretty sure that there are a billion other ways for them to end the war on drugs, including just legalizing drugs.
Yeah, sometimes it even comes out in the news, like when Obama had the, I forgot what the operation was called, but it was a drugs for guns swapping program over the Mexican border, and it all came out.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called too, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And another thing, I don't know, I really feel like I think Portland was just this whole entire scheme for them to get people to not want drug legalization anymore, because they took a state that has like some of the weakest gun laws.
Oh yeah.
And like high crime already, super like good laws if you're a criminal, useless, homeless person. I'm going to go live in
welfare slave.
I'm going to go live in Portland and not have to work at all and just do drugs all day. And then they legalized all drugs. And then, like, normally intelligent people, like my sister's boyfriend who's from there, say things like, see, this is why we can't just legalize all drugs. It's like, if you get rid of the welfare, if you do all of these things at once, like, legalizing drugs isn't going to cause more crime. But if you just legalize drugs in a place where there's high crime and the, like, cops aren't allowed to arrest people even if they're like murdering someone. I don't know if it's literally murdering someone, but doing really bad things, cops are just like not allowed to do anything, like, and they're paying for those people too. It's ridiculous. Obviously, you're going to see bad things come. Do you see what I'm saying? I think that was all done on purpose.
Yep.
It would make sense that it would be done on purpose because, you know, when you have welfare suckers on the doles doing the drugs, they don't have incentive to live lives. They don't have incentive to be productive, so they can just do drugs and do crime. And so when you have people stuck in this welfare loop with the drugs and the crime, you're going to have people stuck doing criminal acts and being a drag on the system and just being terrible people overall. So then it'd be easy for the outsiders to be like, well, see how effective drug legalization is. Crime just went up. It's just horrible. We can't have people having drugs now. We got to lock them in cages for having drugs. We got to get rid of the drug dealers.
Yeah, that's victim blaming.
It is. Absolutely.
Well, I totally agree, and I really think a lot of things that happen that are in the news are things that were done on purpose just to like subtly influence people's minds about certain situations, and I've called that one for a really long time. So as far as what the caller called in about in the last segment, I brought up some of the other examples of nominations from this Nominees for the People website. It says top contenders under the Peace at Home category include Brandon Herrera, a Second Amendment activist and YouTuber who attempted to recreate the July 13th assassination attempt against Trump. And I think by that it means like recreate and see if it could have been done organically, not recreate and assassinate him.
Yeah, for analysis purpose.
It says, as well as Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. We want nominees who will secure our borders, protect children and adults from human trafficking, deport migrant criminals, and enhance our homeland's critical infrastructure and technologies, the category page says. So yeah, I don't know this Brandon Herrera guy. Is he the one that the caller brought up?
I think so.
He may have been. I don't remember.
Who set up this website? Does it say?
It's RFK. RFK's
oh, cool.
Behind it. It says RFK Jr. has launched a website to crowdsource names to fill 4,000 political appointee positions. Wow. And another category, it says Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX, who took over the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, always forget that, recently received more than 4,900 votes under the government efficiency category, but that's already been, released that he's going to do that, or like announced. The website has received thousands of votes for Mike Rowe Works founder Mike Rowe. Isn't he the guy that did Dirty Jobs? Or is that someone else?
Mike Rowe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That name sounded familiar. I just wasn't sure who that was.
So I don't know which category, though. It says, so they have received 1,000 votes for Mike Rowe, as well as progressive Senator Bernie Sanders to focus on labor. Biden-Harris administration Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, I've never known how to say that.
Buttigieg,
received the highest number of votes so far under energy and infrastructure category, while former presidential candidate Doug and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum was also a top contender for that role. Yeah, those ones aren't that exciting to me. I thought that Thomas Sowell's a lot more interesting. But
yeah. I've heard some talk about, I think Thomas Massey being appointed to something, and he's pretty good on a lot of things.
That would be really good.
He was hard against NSA spying when all of that was going down.
I would accept Thomas Massey as Trump's promise to put somebody in that's a libertarian. I would totally accept that. That seems like good enough of a libertarian to put in to me. Well, another story we brought in, that Stu brought in, I think, about another pick for Trump's cabinet. I don't know if they're all considered his cabinet, whatever. Trump's defense secretary pick thinks women should not be in combat roles in the military. And I've heard a lot about this guy today, Pete Hegseth. Yeah, he was a host of Fox and Friends. And I don't really know much about him, but I started hearing about him today. It says Trump loyalist Pete Hegseth, who co-hosts Fox and Friends, recently dismissed the role of women in combat roles. I'm really not that strongly in favor or against women in combat roles. I would never join the military at all.
I wouldn't join the military either, and I don't have an opinion either way. But it's just interesting that people are losing their minds over such things. Yes, some people believe that women should not be in combat roles because of men's nature to want to protect women.
Yeah, it also just kind of seems like if with the nature of the job, do you want women getting sexually assaulted, things like that? It just seems unsafe for a woman to have that kind of a job. But I also think, I don't know, people can make their own choices. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. Don't go anywhere. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to call in about whatever's on your mind. Don't go anywhere. More Free Talk Live coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met at the White House as the two men prepare for the transfer of power. Trump will return to the Oval Office in January after winning last week's U.S. presidential election. Biden called for a smooth transition to the next administration, and the president-elect agreed.
A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim. You're welcome.
Trump is also continuing to announce several high-level cabinet appointments. That includes offering a Fox News anchor the job of leading the military and a new position for Elon Musk, the world's richest person. Here's Mitch McCann with more.
Pete Hesketh, who co-hosts the weekend TV show Fox and Friends on the Fox News channel, is set for a significant promotion, leading America's 1.3 million active duty troops as the Secretary of Defense. Hesketh is a combat veteran, having served in tours to Afghanistan and Iraq and was stationed at Guantanamo Bay. However, he lacks political experience for such a senior government role. Mr. Trump has also found jobs for key allies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The pair are set to lead a Department of Government Efficiency aimed at reducing wasteful spending and bureaucracy in the government. Mitch McCann, New York.
Donald Trump is still facing several criminal cases in the U.S. The prosecutor leading two of them will step down before the president-elect takes office. Reports from the New York Times says special counsel Jack Smith and his team plan to resign after winding down both federal cases facing the former president. In one of those cases, Trump allegedly took classified documents out of the White House. In the other, he's charged with attempting to interfere in the 2020 election outcome. Neither have gone to trial, and now it's unlikely either will. Trump maintains his innocence in both. Staying in the US, Republican senators have chosen their new leader. John Thune has won the race to succeed Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. Thune, a South Dakota senator, won Wednesday's secret ballot to become the majority leader of Congress's upper chamber.
This Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
And residents of India's capital, New Delhi, are experiencing a thick layer of toxic smog blanketing their city. With winter approaching, the air quality there has dipped to what officials call severe levels. Reporter Ishan Garg is in Delhi.
New Delhi's PM 2.5 pollutant levels are currently 70 times what the World Health Organization considers tolerable. Residents can be seen wearing masks on the road as they battle a perennial problem with no immediate relief in sight.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And I'd like to thank Gnostic Civ Pack for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Gnostic Civ Pack went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to Gnostic Civ Pack and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. And we do appreciate everyone who supports the show. With you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Stu.
And Riley.
And the number, again, is 603-283-6160 if you would like to call in with whatever is on your mind. That's what Free Talk Live is all about. You can tell us what you're thinking about what we say, or you can change the subject altogether. And in the last segment, we started reading this from TheIndependent.com. Pete Hegseth, the President-elect Donald Trump's choice for defense secretary, has said in the past that women should not be in combat roles in the military because they aren't as capable as men. And that just is like signaling to me that just like this is like something only like Democrats or like care about, because like I think that is literally just like indisputably true as far as physical things people can do.
Sure. Well, maybe I don't know if I agree with that statement entirely. I think there are some capable women of being in combat, but at the same time, they can also be a distraction in combat too.
Yeah, I think that when people are saying like, oh, women are not as capable as men physically, like you just have to assume that they mean like by and large, like generally most of the time. And it's just true. That's why I'm personally like, it's not that I'm against what other people want to agree it to do, but like if I had a daughter, I wouldn't let her play on a team with a boy, etc. Like people have been really injured just playing sports with like boys and girls that aren't meant to be co-ed, etc. There's just like a undisputable difference between the strength and like the limb size, the height, etc. That is like obviously we're talking averages here between men and women. So I don't know. I think that's just kind of a thing that like he said one time, and people are like, women are absolutely as capable as men. Like just like getting able to get angry about something because like, oh, I'm a manager in an office. Does he think I should have to give my job to a man? Like, no.
Well, combat roles are different than a manager in an office.
Well,
combat roles involve, facing your fear, stepping into, doing violent acts against people. And, women are capable of violence just as much as men are. And so, to say they're not capable of being in combat to me is just ludicrous, because here some women are going off to war like men are and doing a great job, but at the same time, should they be? I don't know. I'm very hesitant to say that every woman should sign up to be in a combat role because, Bonnie, I just couldn't imagine you in combat. You don't seem like the type of person that would be good in a combat role.
No, ever since I was a kid, my dad would say, have you considered joining the military to pay for college a couple years after you? And I would say, like, no. And my dad would say, well, never say never. I never thought I'd join the military. And I was just like, no, I literally never. And, like, that's one thing I have said never to, and never had to be like, well, ever.
Maybe I'll join the military.
Like, the poorest I ever got, the hardest I ever had to work to, like, pay bills, never thought about joining the military, ever.
That's funny that I think that's the opinion of joining the military now, is that it's more of a security thing than it is an honor thing anymore. Yeah. It used to be all about honor and, whatever. But I wonder how much of that eroded simply because people know now that they're just fighting for bankers.
Yeah. I every time I talk about how like people shouldn't support the government and stuff, like somebody brings up my dad being in the military. It's been a thing that's happened like multiple times. Me and my friend whose dad was also in the military, we would always talk about how like there was just like actually more honor in it before 9/11. It's like I could understand someone in the 80s joining the military thinking they're doing something good, pre-internet, I can't understand it anymore.
I don't know if I'd agree with you. I think the military lost its honor after Vietnam. And
I
it's
don't
been
know.
in
That
slow
was more
decline.
like that was, I think, a lot more like the current leadership at the time. Like JFK tried to end it, and then like, what's that guy's name who was like 100 years old and died recently? Well, he wanted it to not end.
Henry Kissinger?
Yes, he let it go on for longer. Like he did his little things behind the scenes he could do to let it go on for longer. And like possibly, I don't know, could have been involved in JFK dying, but I really do think that Johnson was like really, really huge behind JFK getting killed. But I don't know. I wouldn't say that was something that's like everyone should look at Vietnam and think like, now I know that the military is useless. I would understand people thinking that was like leadership at the time, not a really good like thing that happened, but like no question, the purpose of the military is like not honorable at all. Happened 9/11. That's what I just really believe. Like not 9/11 itself, but like what happened after.
I don't know that this country has ever had a truly honorable warrior class.
Well, you've had the internet, you know? Like, do you think people that joined like World War I were just like as able to look at things like we have hindsight? We have. I'm not even saying it was
I think
honorable.
People read more, and I think that Closer to the Truth was published in the newspaper back then. And Wilson won on the campaign that he kept us out of war. People didn't want to go to war. They were tricked into it.
Yeah, they were. And, you know, it seems like for centuries, people have seen the idea of fighting for a country or fighting for a cause as a valiant thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just today, it's not a valiant cause. You're not fighting for liberty. You're not fighting to save people from terrorists. You're fighting for bankers and you're fighting for drug lords.
I don't think it makes it valiant just because you were tricked into it.
I'm not saying that it was valiant. I'm saying that like it's more understandable that those people like didn't actually know what was going on. Like the newspaper wasn't reporting like nowadays they can tell like, oh,
you would have had a hard time convincing me back then that, you know.
I mean, you say that now, somebody born in like
across
the
ocean
80s
was really going to be a threat, and like what was the worst that was going to happen? The trope I always heard trotted out was that if we hadn't joined that war, you'd be speaking German right now. Oh no, not that. It's a fine language.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, also I think Hitler was stretching himself too thin too when he started doing the war in Europe, and so I doubt we'd be speaking German. I mean, the Japanese could have tried, but you know, there was a gun behind every blade.
I don't know if you guys think I'm saying, oh, it's such a good thing we joined the wars. I'm saying that I don't really blame people for getting tricked back then.
I can understand
that. Like, oh, Ferdinand got killed. This is all serious, and I'm going to help, get behind my country. And like, you know, the average person isn't sitting around like looking for the most information they possibly can. Even now, when we have all the information at our fingertips, they had a lot less back then. Like current things happening.
I get what you're saying, and everybody I think gets tricked at some point in their life, and so. It's every time I've been tricked in my life, it's still my fault, and it doesn't make it so that I don't know. I guess I don't know what to say about that. It's not the actions I took while under false premise didn't. They couldn't carry honor. The only way that I could have been honorable about it is to have done my due diligence and not be tricked.
I just think that if something is completely hidden from you, like there's no possible way for you to know it, then you're less responsible for doing something like, I always think ultimately the person is most responsible for doing something that did it. Like, I don't think, oh, your general's more responsible for it because he told you to do it and then you did it. No, I think the soldier is.
I think the information was there, though. And that
I just don't see how that's possible.
They just would have had to work a lot harder.
Why would there be a book about something that's literally happening like day to day? Like, I just don't. I wasn't there either. But like, you think that everybody had easy access to what was going on in the military currently to know that like something was a scam? Like, things could easily be hidden from them.
I think the history of international bankers directing wars. I think the history of the Rothschilds getting rich off the Napoleonic Wars at Waterloo. I think all these things were pretty common knowledge, and I think people could see a track record, and I think they did know what was going on.
Well, never heard that is common knowledge. I understand that people at first didn't want to join the wars, but if it was just common knowledge, why did they get convinced?
There's a lot more information out there now, but I think people are far dumber than they used to be.
Yeah, people are a bit dumber than they used to be, but I also think that they were more.
Far dumber.
I think people were more sheeple back then. Sounds crazy.
People don't read paper books anymore, and they're all fluoride brained.
People legitimately back then had a few sources that they could get information from and believed things like this man in a lab coat, and this is more like the 40s than we were talking World War I before. This man in a lab coat on TV said that butter is bad for me and I should use canola oil, and just switched to margarine overnight because this man in a lab coat wasn't a doctor. Forget his name right now.
That was a tricky time right after TV came out, and yep.
Operation Mockingbird was the thing back then too.
I think the level of
trick the people
goes up and
into
down, too.
going to war and doing all these horrendous things.
I don't know. I'm not. The thing is, I'm saying I always believe that you're responsible for what you do, but you're a little less responsible if you were more had no ability to know what you were getting yourself into. Today, I don't have any respect, 0% for people that join the military. And oh my God, people in my family, they will tell me well, here's what I'm doing in the military. I'm doing this, that, and that. And none of it is actually really immoral. And what they're saying is true, except your job could be done by the public sector and you're stealing from people for a paycheck.
Yeah.
It's what all always comes down to. Even if you can prove to me that what you're doing in the military does 0% harm, well, it doesn't need to be your paycheck doesn't need to be stolen from people to exist. I'm sure that someone in my family is a military person who works on airplanes and helicopters that then are used to rescue people. Somebody gets lost in the mountains and somewhere in America. Well,
all that can be done by the private sector.
Right,
yeah,
that's
a
what I'm saying.
Service, yeah.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. So there's something immoral about it, no matter what you're doing in the military.
And I do agree that it's you're certainly less culpable if you've been given false information. You're operating on that.
I don't know. Somebody could tell you that somebody you love is kidnapped and you have to kill somebody to get him back, and if you have no way of knowing the difference, I think you're less culpable if you kill somebody over that. But
I still don't think I would do it though until I was absolutely sure.
Yeah, I guess that some people might be that way, but I just don't really blame people who have to work every day being fed information, even if it's on the radio back then, and they really have no I feel like the earlier Americans had less reason to think that the government was lying to them, because they just believed, I feel it feels like that they just believed more commonly that the people that are in charge are good and doing this to like help us out.
It sure seems that way, especially from the history books.
But I'm not certain. I wasn't there. That's just like always the vibe I've gotten. It's like people in like my parents, like the people in the 80s and like my parents' parents and like the 70s and 60s, like they talk about stuff and it just seems like they have such like their opinions on things that happened back then were just like what they heard on TV, and it's like they like nowadays there'd be some forum online they had looked at and found all the like dirty secrets about that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
they just had less access to information and they just repeat what you would hear in a history book. But anyways, so we were talking at the beginning of the segment, this article from theindependent.com, and the reason we started talking about the military at all is that Pete Hegseth, I remember there being like two Brians, I don't remember Pete, honestly, being on Fox and Friend. Well, he is now Donald Trump's choice for defense secretary. I'm not even sure what the defense secretary does.
I'm not sure either.
Just know he has something to do with like the military and like us going to war. So the 44-year-old Fox and Friends co-host, whose appointment has shocked many in the defense world, dismissed the role of women in combat roles in an appearance on the Sean Ryan Show, which aired last week on November 7th. He said, "I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated."
Yeah, seems like all of that would be probably true.
I can understand where he's coming from because, I mean, definitely having women in combat roles causes men to feel a little more, aware of who these women are, and, maybe they want to protect them or be valorous in various situations, and so that could be really distracting in a war.
If I was just choosing people to be like my bodyguard, I would not really consider as many women as I considered men.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some women out there, but on average,
Yep.
and the majority of women are not going to be anywhere near as strong as your average man.
He continued, he said, "We have all served with women, and they're great. But it's just our institutions don't have to incentivize that in places where traditionally, over human history, men in those positions are more capable." Ryan chimed in, I guess it was the host, Ryan chimed in that he believed women do have a place in combat if they want it, but suggested that they should stay out of or create certain units of their own. Because when you said it gets complicated, yeah, it does get complicated. I mean, sex happens everywhere. And, I grew up on military bases. So many people getting, in trouble, families breaking up because, women, not just in the military, but, getting too involved with, all of the other guys and it's literally prolific. It's, military wives are, oh, my God, so stigmatized because, well, they've created it themselves, all this love triangle stuff, all these sex scandals, seen it literally a million times. There's
sure.
this one family I grew up with their daughters and was friends with their daughters, and they literally swapped where the man was having an affair with the wife next door while the husband was having an affair with the wife of the first guy.
Interesting.
And now today, those families have swapped, and we found them on Facebook, and we were like, what the heck? Anyways, it's so prolific. It's putting people in these positions, we're working out together, etc.
Yeah, if I had a job that required me to be out of the country for more than 2 years, I wouldn't even try to be married.
That is a pretty good point, yeah. People are out of
marriage
away
would
from
be
their families.
definitely harder when you're away from your family in a really stressful situation and you got these beautiful women around you.
And there's all
It
these...
can be really tempting.
All these women who aren't in the military who heard that you have... I forgot what it's called, BAH pay, that you get more money if you get married.
Yeah.
So there's women who literally live near military bases, and their whole goal is to get a military guy.
Weird,
yeah, I can't relate. He says, the men then digressed into how women in the military can create drama and cause love triangles in the platoon.
I'm sure they can.
I know that they can.
So you can't imagine Ian in a military uniform?
No. I'm so glad he never did anything like that. Even if he had just done it and gotten out already, but by the time I met him, I would have less respect for him. Glad he didn't do that. Hegseth clarified that his comment about women referred to military roles such as the Navy SEALs and the Green Berets, where strength is a differentiator. They both agreed, however, that there is no issue with female pilots. But on the physical stuff, there's just a difference, Hegseth said. The controversial comments resurfaced after Trump announced his choice for the top job in the Pentagon on Tuesday. In another resurfaced clip from 2017, Hegseth lashed out at veterans groups on Fox News for supporting those returning from conflict who claim disability compensation. Not sure what that exactly means, maybe I'll explain. He said groups out there, vet groups mostly, encourage vets to apply for every government benefit they can ever get after they leave the service. Well, yeah, I've also known tons of people that's what, nothing's wrong with you, and you get 90% disability pay, whatever? Yeah, I have, back pain. They can just claim... So, I've always said, military is, work-flavored welfare.
Yeah.
They had to, work a little bit to get the job, wake up early, etc., but it's generally just welfare. They're overpaid half the time. Once they get in there for long enough.
I think most government jobs are like that, but especially with the military.
And then, with the military, it's not just like a pension, like, oh, you're always going to get this amount. It's like you can get more just for saying that your back hurts or something. Stuff like that. Maybe some of them, quote unquote, deserve it.
So, a former activist here in our Keene community, Lauren Canario, was actually involved in the military. I think she was in the Army at one point.
My great-grandma helped decipher codes in World War II, I think it was. It's like, you know, she's not like climbing up the side of buildings. I don't know. You know, she's sitting in America deciphering codes.
Yeah.
Sure,
well, when I was young and I didn't know any better, I strongly considered signing up for the military myself.
Why didn't you do it?
I'm so glad I didn't. I don't know. Oh, I think because I had gotten in trouble with weed at some point, and I figured they just wouldn't take me or whatever. So
possible.
There was at one point in my life that I really wanted to join the military, and that was in high school, but they wouldn't take me because I'm blind.
Yep.
They had, I had what was it called? Like church group thing or like a youth group thing. So this guy was the leader of our youth group. He was like 35, him and his wife, and they were so nice. But anyways, he told me that he applied with the FBI when he was younger. He always wanted to work for the FBI, but they asked him the question, have you ever smoked weed? And he like truthfully answered like, yes, I did like 5 years ago when I was younger, you know. And they disqualified him for that, like having ever smoked weed.
Wow.
But then again, I said that on the show once, and whoever I was saying it with was like, maybe they put that as like a intelligence test. Like, will this person say yes? I don't know. And then they only want people who would lie to get power.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. But then again, Mormons also join the FBI and CIA because, you know, they don't drink coffee. They don't use drugs typically, so
yeah, the BYU campus is one of the CIA's favorite places to recruit because young Mormon men are just gullible as heck.
Well, they're also good at following rules and things like that.
Order
So
followers, and they'll believe anything you tell them.
It's so funny. I was listening to or watching this Hulu show. It's definitely, I feel, the point of this show is to kind of degrade Mormon culture because it's so successful, being like churning out good people. But this show called The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, I was watching it on Hulu today, and they were talking about how when they were younger, like in their mind, like everyone on earth was a Mormon. Like they didn't know
That's how it was from here.
Yeah, I remember feeling that way too when I was a kid. You know, everyone was a Mormon to me. Everyone believed the same way I did. But you know, over time, my worldviews have shifted.
I was talking to this girl who was maybe 16 and I was 20, or maybe she was like 17. I don't know. And she said to me, like, she thought this was like a really intelligent thing to say. She was like, when I was younger, I thought like everyone was Mormon, but now I realize only like maybe like 20% of the population of the world is Mormon. That's so
less than 20%.
high. It's so much less than that.
Way less than 20, yeah.
I was like, wait, do you really think that? Like, I looked up the numbers for it. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head or anything, but she was like, oh, well, I don't know. I was just kind of like guessing.
So if the church membership is roughly 17 million people, it's less than 1% of the Earth's population.
That's just crazy. Like, she realized not everyone is Mormon, so her guess was maybe like 20%. That's just crazy. Like,
well, that's what it seems like when you live in such a tight knit culture. That,
oh yeah.
That I mean, it's as shut off from the outside as you want it to be.
Well, 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. You can call 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up.
Wine in a box? I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Technically, it's in a bag in a box, a plastic bladder with an airtight valve. And boxed wine has been around for years, although you might not have recognized label brands until recently, as name vineyards have followed frugal shoppers who pay lots less for the equivalent of 4 bottles. How? Cardboard boxes and plastic bags are much less expensive packaging than glass bottles, which cost more to ship, production of which asks more of the environment and which are breakable. And when you open a bottle of wine, the clock starts ticking. But boxed wine can last 4 to 6 weeks from the time you open the spigot on the front of the box, which sits on a refrigerator shelf. Cheers! How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks on the blog at andyoucanquoteme.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.fm.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson.
Congratulations. Thank you.
President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met at the White House as the two men prepare for the transfer of power. Trump will return to the Oval Office in January after winning last week's U.S. presidential election. Biden called for a smooth transition to the next administration, and the president-elect agreed.
A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe. You're welcome.
Trump is also continuing to announce several high-level cabinet appointments. That includes offering a Fox News anchor the job of leading the military and a new position for Elon Musk, the world's richest person. Here's Mitch McCann with more.
Pete Hesketh, who co-hosts the weekend TV show Fox and Friends on the Fox News channel, is set for a significant promotion, leading America's 1.3 million active duty troops as the Secretary of Defense. Hesketh is a combat veteran, having served in tours to Afghanistan and Iraq and was stationed at Guantanamo Bay. However, he lacks political experience for such a senior government role. Mr. Trump has also found jobs for key allies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The pair are set to lead a Department of Government Efficiency aimed at reducing wasteful spending and bureaucracy in the government. Mitch McCann, New York.
Donald Trump is still facing several criminal cases in the U.S. The prosecutor leading 2 of them will step down before the president-elect takes office. Reports from the New York Times says special counsel Jack Smith and his team plan to resign after winding down both federal cases facing the former president. In one of those cases, Trump allegedly took classified documents out of the White House. In the other, he's charged with attempting to interfere in the 2020 election outcome. Neither have gone to trial, and now it's unlikely either will. Trump maintains his innocence in both. Staying in the US, Republican senators have chosen their new leader. John Thune has won the race to succeed Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. Thune, a South Dakota senator, won Wednesday's secret ballot to become the majority leader of Congress's upper chamber.
This Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
And residents of India's capital, New Delhi, are experiencing a thick layer of toxic smog blanketing their city. With winter approaching, the air quality there has dipped to what officials call severe levels. Reporter Ishan Garg is in Delhi.
New Delhi's PM 2.5 pollutant levels are currently 70 times what the World Health Organization considers tolerable. Residents can be seen wearing masks on the road as they battle a perennial problem with no immediate relief in sight.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, with more today on the resignation of the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, the man who presided over Queen Elizabeth II's funeral and then King Charles's coronation, and who has spent 10 years at the helm of the Anglican Church. He has stepped down after an investigation revealed that he had failed to report historical physical and sexual abuse by a volunteer at a Christian camp when he learnt about it in 2013. Bishop Stephen Lowe is a former advisor to the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Rowan Williams.
I feel very sad that it's taken a lot of pressure from a lot of people to actually decide that it's the right thing to do. He cannot get away with saying, I did some shameful things in terms of effectively covering up and not pursuing the abuser after it became quite clear that he should be dealt with, preventing further abuse. And that is shameful. And once you say something is, I've done something shameful and have caused effectively people to be abused, then there is no option, in my view, for him to actually resign.
Justin Welby said he was leaving his position in sorrow. A lengthy process now begins to determine his successor, and it is expected that could take as long as 6 months to resolve. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, US President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met at the White House as the two men prepare for the transfer of power. Republican lawmakers have chosen their new leader of the US Senate. John Thune has won the race to succeed Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. And residents of India's capital, New Delhi, are experiencing a thick layer of toxic smog, with officials calling pollution there severe. That's the latest feature story news. Sally Patterson reporting.
Reflecting on the persistent troubles it caused his sibling during childhood, local doctor Daniel Barrett told reporters this week about his average-looking brother, Kevin, who first inspired him to be a cosmetic surgeon.
As a kid, I remembered thinking that there was nothing I could do for Kevin. Watching someone you really love and care about suffer from a weak jawline or unsymmetrical features, it had a major impact on me.
And in this week's local news, a community theater gives the part of Blanche Dubois to Kathy Hamilton. In other news, a moviegoer manages to sneak candy past a teenage usher earning $7 an hour. A new app matches you with others in the vicinity who wasted $2.99 on the same app. And a Roman centurion crawling out of a New York City manhole cover is in for one wacky adventure. Having graciously spread my knowledge to the uneducated masses, I now return to the stately, elegant ranks of News Announcer Society. For more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And we've been podcasting since podcast began, but we're launching a new podcast anyway. Our new podcast is a 30 to 45 minute show releasing once a week, and you can find it at freetalkcast.com. The existing radio archive isn't going anywhere. It's just a new show designed from the start to be a podcast, so check it out at freetalkcast.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Stu,
and Riley.
And we already have callers on the line, so let's go to the phones. David in New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, you can call me Dirty Dave.
What though?
Huh? What?
Why would we call you Dirty Dave?
Because I'm Bonnie the Kid's riding partner, Dirty Dave.
Yeah, I like it, man.
Is that
all right? Oh, speaking of that, you need to turn up Stu's microphone.
Okay, well, is that really
Bonnie the Kid?
Is that really a person, like a historical person?
Yeah, Dirty Dave Radabaugh. You didn't know him? He's not using that name anymore, so I'm using it. You got a problem with that, Bonnie the Kid?
Is he alive?
No, he's quite dead since he was like in his 20s, like in 1880.
Ah.
Speaking of that, so something that will interest you. Here's a news article: New Mexico 2021 lawmaker wants counties to be able to secede from New Mexico.
Nice.
But before, yeah, nice. But before we do that one, let's go back to Dirty Dave. Lincoln County War. Lincoln County wasn't the only county had a war. How about Colfax County War? You ever heard of that one?
That actually
Probably
sounds
not, huh?
familiar. Do you talk about that with us?
Well, I said they also, back in the day, they wanted to secede from New Mexico. They wanted to be part of Arizona, but the federal government stopped them. But just so you understand what Dirty Dave has been dealing with in New Mexico for the last 20 years, let me just read you a couple excerpts. This is from a book, The Colfax County War by Corey Recco. It's no W, just Recco. And says, when New Mexico became part of the United States, the territory contained 295 land grants. The largest was Maxwell land grant. Size and boundaries of the grant were disputed, with some believing that much of the land was public domain. Settlers on this land were fought not only by the land grant owners, but also by a group of corrupt politicians and lawyers known as the Santa Fe Ring. Most notably Thomas Catron. That's the county right over there that I'm pointing at, Catron County, and his partner Stephen Elkins, who somehow both have the same middle name, Benton, who tried to use the situation for personal profit and land acquisition. And there's another little part. I won't trouble you with too much more of this reading, but there's one little part in here so you know what we deal with, what old Dirty Dave deals with in New Mexico. Oh, by the way, I just gave the sheriff of our county notice of intent to sue him in federal court, Bonnie.
For what?
So anyway, yeah, and it's tied in with this corrupt Santa Fe Ring. It's never changed. The fight escalated in late 1875 with the assassination of Reverend F.J. Tolby. See, the Santa Fe Ring is even murdering pastors, reverends, men of God. An outspoken critic of the Santa Fe Ring. In a confession, one of the assassins stated that the men connected to the ring had paid to have Tolby killed. Outrage, civil unrest, and more murders followed. There was like 200-300 people that were killed in Lincoln County in that Lincoln County War. The town of Cimarron alone was the scene of a lynching, a barroom gunfight in the St. James Hotel involving legendary gunman Clay Allison, and a nighttime murder of a prisoner. Oh, that's another trick that the corrupt government in New Mexico, they like to file false charges about. So you guys need to read some of this history, because everything that you're talking about today, they were doing back here, and it's all documented. But one of the tricks they use is they would file false charges against somebody in order to take them into custody, and then they would murder them in custody. So the nighttime murder of a prisoner, for a time, the troubles in New Mexico were ignored by the federal government because Rutherford Hayes was in on it. He knew about it. He was in on it. He was covering up for New Mexico Territory corrupt politicians. But in 1878, the murder of John Tunstall, that's the Lincoln County War, set off a wave of violence, known as the Lincoln County War. I just said that. Following that, a letter came to light that appeared to show that the governor of the territory, Samuel B. Axtell, I suggest changing the X to 2 S's, planned a mass execution of critics of the Santa Fe Ring, whom he considered, Mr. Ryder, whom he considered to be agitators of the Colfax County troubles. So there you go. Your government, the governor himself, planned a mass execution of critics of the corrupt government. How do you like that?
It's rather disturbing, honestly. I mean, this has been going on for centuries, and why should we be surprised that it's even happened in America?
Since, humans turned from monkeys into humans, but yeah.
Yeah.
What are you suing for?
Well, I got this little fight, and Bonnie, you are wrong, and you are you are taking the side of the sheriff here in my county, because you said that people should be able to do whatever they want on their land. And right now, and I'm prepared to, like I said, I've given notice. I've been on the phone for hours and hours. I've talked to the county manager. I've talked to the county commissioners. I've talked to the emergency services department head. I've talked to my state rep friend and a bunch of deputies. And what we the people, theoretically, the way it's supposed to work is we the people want to live in a certain kind of community. We don't want to make it's not okay. Like if somebody comes and just kills coconut, right, Bonnie? We want to make a law so they can't do stuff like that.
Somebody can't kill coconut on their land because I don't have coconut. Just because your neighbor is making too much noise is not the same thing as somebody killing coconut.
I was trying to give a simple
You're not
analogy.
making it. It's not a simple analogy though. Like if somebody taking coconut they'd have to go and take my property from me. Somebody doing something on their land that annoys you is not the same thing.
Involving Bonnie personally. Damn, Dirty Dave, you are stupid, Dirty Dave. What a moron. So anyway, what I was trying to say is you want to live a certain way. And so theoretically, the people live a certain way, and the way that you do that is you have your electeds make laws that you want them to make. So the county here made a law saying you can't make continuous unnecessary noise that disturbs your neighbors, aka a noise ordinance. And then the sheriff, Lee Armijo, he says, well, you know what, we're not going to enforce that law. And so I called the county code enforcement guy, Jose Gonzalez, who, if you remember, Jose Gonzalez is the one that said to me, why don't you go back to where you came from? That's a racist statement, but who cares? Anyway, so the sheriff wouldn't enforce it, and the county code, aka dog catcher, Jose Gonzalez, he wouldn't enforce it. And so I finally got fed up, and I said, okay, well, there's a thing called the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law, and I think I can use that 14th Amendment to sue you in federal court. And so all of a sudden, there's some county vehicles running all around my neighborhood over here, not coming to talk to me, but apparently they're going to talk to other people that they previously said that dogs barking 24 hours a day. Oh, so what? That's what dogs do. They bark. And running a generator. The generator. All those people. They need to have the electricity to play Call of Duty. And so we're not going to enforce the generator against the noise ordinance. So
since most callers aren't going to know what David's talking about at all, I find it really weird. He's being so antagonistic against me because I was the person on the call, being the devil's advocate, to where I was making the point, is there a point where somebody does something on their property that could potentially actually affect David enough from his property that it's a nap aggression? And the other two hosts were saying, no, never, ever. And I was like, well, what if he can prove the generator's making enough noise that it is genuinely raising his cortisol, which is negatively affecting his organs? And I'm not saying that I said that is proof that it's an nap aggression or anything like that, but I never went, David, shut up. I don't care. People can do whatever they want on their property. But I ultimately really do think that the ultimate solution is that there's so much land out there and you can move. I really don't or agree with people who think I have to live in this area, I have to have this job for life, or it's the end of the world. All these people during COVID telling me, well, actually I got the shot because if I didn't, I was going to lose my job, Bonnie. Well, okay, get another job, move to a different place. Aren't you doing that anyway, David? Aren't you moving?
So, yeah, Bonnie, but first of all, I have a challenge for you. I would like you to try to debate people without using a mute button.
No, because you would literally yelled over me last time I started talking. All right, bye. See, he's doing it right now. It's a dumb way to have a conversation. I'm not going to, be able to get my point out. You're not going to be able to get your point out if every time I start talking, you start saying, no, blah, 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 blah. I challenge you not to mute me. You got to talk for, freaking literally 20 minutes straight. I'm looking at the clock. So, whatever. Sarah, New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, yes. I just say that, what happened to, remember those, we had speeding cameras on the freeways going through Arizona? And how come nobody wants to bring those back?
Voting season is over, so now we're back to speeding cameras.
Yep.
Oh, you get my picture? I know. I work on the elections, and I go back to traffic safety. That's my passion in life.
Do you feel bad about that Donald Trump won?
Well, even though I never voted for him, I feel bad about it, but he might really help me putting speeding cameras on the freeways. So those are federal highways. Yeah, but I mean, doesn't he speeding speeders that kill people, they don't like them on the federal highways. So, but what I don't know what happened, but now people that are getting EBT have to go to work if they're able-bodied, don't have a kid.
What's wrong with that?
So that's coming from the federal. It's not the president that's doing it. He's not even president yet.
What's wrong with people going to work if they're able-bodied?
Well, people were getting EBT without doing that, but they're going to implement it. So
okay.
I don't know. I think. Mm-hmm.
Why is that a problem?
I don't understand what you guys are asking. You're asking, Riley, you're asking Sarah why it's a problem that people are getting money without working?
Yeah, I'm wondering why that's a problem. Well, no, I'm wondering why Sarah's bringing up the fact that, people getting EBT are now required to go back to work, and I'm wondering why is she bringing it up? Is that a problem? Why should it be a problem?
Well, the thing is, it was never done before.
Okay.
For 8 years or whatever. Everybody just got EBT. Now they're going to force people to work. I mean, how
You're not forced to work.
successful are they going to be?
No one's forcing you to
20
work.
hours.
Yeah, nobody's entitled to EBT.
No one's
Sorry.
entitled to the fruits of anybody else's labor. Sarah definitely thinks she is because she got told by a therapist one time when she was like 18 that she has bipolar.
Yeah, so now she can just live off of the stolen plunder.
Well, I'm over it. I'm above the cut. I'm like 55 now, so that's going for 54.
I'm gonna work
So,
till
but
I die.
I don't know how. You know what? I don't know if people are just gonna lay over and just suck it up like this. I mean, they think they're just gonna do this, and one day they're just gonna agree. We're just gonna have people like starving to death out.
Does Sarah think that everybody else that turns 55 just starts being like living off everybody else? Like, that's not necessarily true. Lots of people actually work to have a retirement of their own. That's not just, Medicare or what's it called? Is it Medicare or Medicaid? I never remember.
I never remember either.
Like government assistance. Not everyone just works just enough to pay their bills. Then, I'm 55. I think it's went up more than 55 now, but I'm 55 now. I'm just going to live on the government's like on welfare.
Well, anyway, I to kind of go back to the speeding cameras. So the way that they took them out, they said it's the federal. The freeways belong. Those do not belong to Arizona. That's what they said. It belongs to the federal government. The freeways. So if they want to put cameras, the federal government has to have to pass this law. And, after that, nobody cared about it. How many people got killed on the freeways? And then their speed limit is like 74. What is it, 65? And they're like doing 90 or something.
Do you think that these cameras will like physically stop people from doing 90? Because they'll just be mailed a ticket, if anything. Those people can easily take those tickets to court and get them dropped.
Yeah, but Arizona had the right idea because it's a federal state highway, but going through their state, and they can monitor the behavior when they're going through they're breaking state law as long as the federal state highway is going through their state. So I have no idea. And then once they took them up, nobody fought them back. Nobody fought as. All the people that are getting killed in the freeways. So the way that it's stated is that you can speed all you want as long as it's federal highway only. If it belongs to the federal government, you could kill and speed and cause wrecks that have 10, 15 cars pile up. That's how it's understood.
Speeding doesn't necessarily result in somebody being killed. I've sped lots of times, never killed anybody.
I sped today. Never killed anybody.
You know what? Okay, but one time, the speeding. Okay, there's a times that the speeders do kill people.
There's times that people going under the speed limit kill people. What's the point? Should we just ban cars? Should we go back to horses?
Sarah would love that.
People used to get trampled by horses too.
I could understand. I understand your point of view. Like, there's going to be always fatalities that are involving cars as long as we have mobility. But come on. There's things that we could do, like the breathalyzer, the built-in.
There are things. You pay attention. You drive slow when there might be people walking around.
You don't need a government.
It's a matter of personal responsibility.
It really is. You don't need a government to make people be more responsible. It doesn't work out well.
That's kind of where we always end up with Sarah. Like, we tell her, like, don't you think there are other ways to get the ideas into people's head about driving safely than just putting red light cameras up? Like, if anything, I feel like it's going to make people more rebellious who are driving 90 where it's like 60, Like, I think that they're just going to get, like, ways to get around it, feel rebellious about it. Like, some people, seriously, it feels when you're on the highway in like San Antonio, feels like some people's like only joy in their life is like driving dangerously like idiots and like as fast as they can around you. It's like then people like race on the highway. It's all idiotic. And the thing is, like, I think that there's like some foundational stuff like about humans that could be addressed but isn't, and the government is only part of the problem and part of the reason why. Like, New Mexico has terrible public schools. Sarah talks about it. They should just get rid of the public schools and have people be less stupid in general, and then maybe they won't think it's fun to speed for no reason. Like, dangerously. Anything else you guys have to say about it?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
We have another caller on the line. Thank you for the call, Sarah. We have Anthony on the line. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I'd like to make a comment for Sarah. I'm a truck driver. I'm out here, and I've been truck driving for 22 years. And I would like for her to look this up whenever she gets a chance, or any of you to tell her they're allowing truck drivers out here with visas to come in and drive. They don't have to, have a CDL or anything else. And a lot of the wrecks now are with people with visas from semis. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are. And she's wanting to talk about traffic safety. I think that she needs to start in on with programs like that to help, other than just speeding cameras. Get involved into looking into these new laws and the old laws and stuff like that.
Wow. Whenever she was saying, like, speeding is so dangerous, and Stu said, well, also people going slow is dangerous, the first thing that popped in my mind is in San Antonio, all the news of, like, somebody who's, like, from Mexico, probably there illegally, driving backwards up a highway entrance and killing people. Happens, like, often.
Happens all the time now.
Yeah.
You can't read the signs and everything, and I'm not being rude or anything. It's just a
true.
fact now, And like out in California and everywhere else, they give them the driver's license and let them go.
Yep, that's pretty crazy.
Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think that people with visas are having more truck accidents than people without?
Because they're really not trained. Let's just say they can go to a big company and get have a visa, go to a trucking company that's really huge, like you probably have them up there where you guys are at, New Hampshire, and they're not going to fail them because they don't want that on their record. They just pass them and let them go. And they don't have to go through the DOT, Department of Transportation, to get their CDLs like I had to.
Seems like all these like horrible things that happen in the world, you can almost always trace it back to some government incentive that's all backwards from how things normally would be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think if I were in charge of hiring...
There is a shortage.
I think if I were in charge of hiring truck drivers, if it were my company and that were my job, I wouldn't depend on the CDL as being good enough. I'd want to see that you could actually operate the machinery.
Or go along with them on driving a truck.
Correct. I agree.
Train them yourself.
I totally agree with that. And I think that's the issue. Supposedly they go through like a 4-week training class, and they just give them the, here you go, license and go. Which, if you Google it and whatever, read into it, you'll be like me going, I'm ready to get out of truck driving now.
Do you find yourself in more dangerous situations on the highway now?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not just it's actually with cars, and everything else, because they cut you off. They don't care anymore. There's just no more respect out here either.
Yeah. I seriously know what you mean. Like, it feels like a lot of times I get to thinking when I've been driving a lot, like, and a bunch of people have, like, wronged me on the highway, I'll start thinking about it, and I always feel like it just seems like a symptom of people just, like, being so disconnected. They don't think they'll ever see me again. They do me wrong on the highway. It's dangerous. And then they just move on with their life. And it's like, I feel like it's a symptom of people just being on their phones all day and not having like as much interaction with the real world.
I agree.
Everyone being separate.
That's an interesting take.
There is a weird thing that happens to people when they get in their car. Suddenly, they,
It sure seems that way.
It's almost like being on the internet or something. They will be so much more rude to you than they ever would in person.
Yeah, I was shocked. And thank you so much for the call, Anthony. I was shocked one time when somebody almost got into my lane, almost cut me off, it was super dangerous, had to slam on my brakes, almost hit the median when he did it. Then when and he stopped. Then when I passed him, I was looking at him like, what the heck? And he gave a nod his head, shake, and mouthed the word sorry. I was like, wow, this had never happened before then. One and only times when he said sorry when they were wrong on the highway. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. 603-283-6160.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join today.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson.
Congratulations. Thank you.
President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met at the White House as the two men prepare for the transfer of power. Trump will return to the Oval Office in January after winning last week's U.S. presidential election. Biden called for a smooth transition to the next administration, and the president-elect agreed.
A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim. You're welcome.
Trump is also continuing to announce several high-level cabinet appointments. That includes offering a Fox News anchor the job of leading the military and a new position for Elon Musk, the world's richest person. Here's Mitch McCann with more.
Pete Hesketh, who co-hosts the weekend TV show Fox and Friends on the Fox News channel, is set for a significant promotion, leading America's 1.3 million active duty troops as the Secretary of Defense. Hesketh is a combat veteran, having served in tours to Afghanistan and Iraq and was stationed at Guantanamo Bay. However, he lacks political experience for such a senior government role. Mr. Trump has also found jobs for key allies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The pair are set to lead a Department of Government Efficiency aimed at reducing wasteful spending and bureaucracy in the government. Mitch McCann, New York.
Donald Trump is still facing several criminal cases in the U.S. The prosecutor leading two of them will step down before the president-elect takes office. Reports from the New York Times says special counsel Jack Smith and his team plan to resign after winding down both federal cases facing the former president. In one of those cases, Trump allegedly took classified documents out of the White House. In the other, he's charged with attempting to interfere in the 2020 election outcome. Neither have gone to trial, and now it's unlikely either will. Trump maintains his innocence in both. Staying in the US, Republican senators have chosen their new leader. John Thune has won the race to succeed Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. Thune, a South Dakota senator, won Wednesday's secret ballot to become the majority leader of Congress's upper chamber.
This Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
And residents of India's capital, New Delhi, are experiencing a thick layer of toxic smog blanketing their city. With winter approaching, the air quality there has dipped to what officials call severe levels. Reporter Ishan Garg is in Delhi.
New Delhi's PM 2.5 pollutant levels are currently 70 times what the World Health Organization considers tolerable. Residents can be seen wearing masks on the road as they battle a perennial problem with no immediate relief in sight.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Windows, Android, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Stu,
and Riley.
And in the last segment, we were talking a lot about things that callers called in about. And yeah, you can call 603-283-6160 to bring up whatever's on your mind. But in this segment, I want to talk about a story Riley brought in from brownstone.org. The CDC planned quarantine camps nationwide. So if you remember, there were these things in China, Australia, New Zealand, and other places
where the lockdowns are more severe, and the totalitarian state was like, we want zero COVID.
Yep.
In China, they were just locking people into their entire apartment complexes.
Yep.
That was happening too, but there was also people who just got taken away and brought to, like, camps. So I don't know what's worse, honestly. Like, I wouldn't want either to happen to me. But there were places they set up in these different countries, and like everybody had their own little apartment they had to stay in. Like, I remember people were acting like it was like a fun vacation in pictures from like Australia, and they like had this little apartment they were forced to stay in, and they were like being quarantined until they didn't have COVID anymore. And it just seems like not even very scientific of a way to like get rid of a sickness. I've never heard of like, oh, well, that's a thing we used to do and it worked. Seems like you just find a cure and then you're fine. But when it's a cold, I feel like it's not even serious enough to do all that with. The CDC planned quarantine camps nationwide in the United States, though. No matter how bad you think COVID policies were, they were intended to be worse. This is from Jeffrey Tucker, who recently brought Ian up on a podcast he did. I thought was so nice. He said he thinks that Trump is going to start off with a sort of Bastille Day where he's going to free Ian, Ross, the January 6 people, and I don't remember if there was anybody else he listed, maybe Roger Ver, but I thought that was so nice. But anyways, consider the vaccine passports alone. 6 cities were locked down to include only the vaccinated in public indoor places. They were New York City, Boston, Chicago, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. The plan was to enforce this with a vaccine passport. It broke. Once the news leaked that the shot didn't stop infection or transmission, the planners lost public support and the scheme collapsed. It was undoubtedly planned to be permanent and nationwide, if not worldwide. Instead, the scheme had to be dialed back. Features of the CDC's edict did incredible damage. It imposed the rent moratorium. So, like, rent was only allowed to be some certain amount and not go any higher, right?
No, I think
they couldn't
that's just
kick you out for not paying your rent.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It's what Stu said. They couldn't kick you out for not paying your rent.
Wow.
You could just stay there forever.
It decreed the ridiculous 6 feet of distance, like super unscientific, like as if germs just like have some amount they are allowed to jump from one person to the next, and if it's over 6 feet they can't reach. Like, that's so ridiculous and not true.
I heard somebody posit the theory that, and it was somebody techie who may have known better. But they said that it's possible they needed the 6-foot distance so that they could calibrate their cell phone tracking software a little better, because when they were all jammed together real close, they couldn't separate one from another, and so they needed them all to spread 6 feet apart for a little while so they could recalibrate everything.
Whoa, that is crazy. I mean, I'd believe it, because it was all about like getting rid of privacy and tracking, things like that. Like they wanted to put like apps on people's phones. They did in some countries. Even like this thing Ian had on his phone where every like 3 times a day randomly he would get an alarm and then he'd have to take a picture in his house to track him. That was a new thing that the feds started using for people on house arrest that they like developed for COVID stuff. So yeah, they were like planning all this stuff.
I'm sure they want to be able to track you in your own home.
Yep, another Hegelian dialectic where they have an outcome they need, and so they just cause a problem and get the reaction.
It says, features of the CDC's edict did incredible damage. Also, it forced plexiglass as the interface for commercial transactions. It implied that mail-in balloting must be the norm, which probably flipped the election. It delayed the reopening as long as possible. It was sadistic. Even with all that, worse was planned. On July 26, 2020, with the George Floyd riots having finally settled down, the CDC issued a plan for establishing nationwide quarantine camps. People were to be isolated, given only food and some cleaning supplies. They would be banned from participating in any religious services. The plan included contingencies for preventing suicide. There were no provisions made for any legal appeals or even the right to legal counsel. The plan's authors were unnamed, but included 26 footnotes. It was completely official. The document was only removed on about March 26, 2023. During the entire intervening time, the plan survived on the CDC's public site with little to no public notice or controversy. Wow, that's just crazy. I had never heard of this.
I've never heard of it either until now.
I think I did hear some whispers of it at the time.
It was called interim, not sure how you say that word, interim operational considerations for implementing the shielding approach to prevent COVID-19 infections in humanitarian settings.
That's a really long name.
Yeah.
That was so stupid.
It's government for you. They want these long names just to make it look and sound official.
Especially if it's going to do something really bad.
Yeah.
Part of this said, well, let's see if that stands for anything, like IOCI. No, it doesn't. Because, like the really long name for the Patriot Act, I don't remember right now what it stands for.
Yeah.
Spells Patriot Act. So part of it says, this document presents considerations from the perspective of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for implementing the shielding approach in humanitarian settings as outlined in guidance documents focused on camps, displaced populations, and low-resource settings. This is crazy. It sounds like what they were doing to like the Japanese World War II. This approach has never been documented and has raised questions and concerns among humanitarian partners who support response activities in the settings. The purpose of this document is to highlight potential implementation challenges of the shielding approach from CDC's perspective and guide thinking around implementation in the absence of empirical data. Considerations are based on current evidence known about the transmission and severity of coronavirus disease and may need to be revised as more information comes available. Just sounds like just people who will like have grabbed power using something as an excuse to have an emergency and do whatever they want, including put people in basically internment camps. By absence of empirical data, the meaning is nothing like this has ever been tried. This is back to what Jeffrey Tucker is writing. The point of the document was to map out how it could be possible and alert authorities to possible pitfalls to be avoided. The meaning of shielding is to reduce the number of severe COVID-19 cases by limiting contact between individuals at higher risk of developing severe disease. And the thing that like pisses me off the most about like all of COVID is that people can decide if they want to put themselves at risk or not. Like I remember on Christmas in 2020, I was at my grandma's house And we FaceTimed my aunt who was going to be there, but then she got COVID. And my grandma was saying to her, like, when are you going to come visit us again? Like, you, my aunt, and your kids, my grandma's other grandkids. And my aunt was like, I've never seen her like this. She's somewhat of a liberal, but she was like, Mama, I don't know if it's going to be like years. This is so serious, blah, blah, blah. And my grandma was like, knock that off. I don't want to not see my grandkids for years just because of a cold. And she was like, my aunt was all like in hysteria. Like, this is actually so bad. It's like the worst cold ever. And my grandma was like, I don't care. I don't want to not see my grandkids for years.
I mean, I'm not saying that COVID isn't severe and I'm not saying that COVID wasn't severe, or I'm saying that people should have the choice to take the risk. You know, some people are going to have severe reactions to COVID, some are not. Some people are going to have long COVID symptoms, some are not. But it's not up to a government, a large centralized authority to decide that for us.
I also think that the reason they chose a sickness to be the thing that they did all of this lockdown stuff for, because I really do believe it was all planned. Not that I believe COVID is like not real in and of itself necessarily, but I do think the whole response was planned. Well, I think they chose a sickness because they could conceivably convince people that you are actually like basically doing something wrong, basically like breaking the non-aggression principle.
Sure.
Because,
it's easy to do.
Well, you're putting my life into your hands by going outside.
What, you don't care about Granny?
Exactly. That's exactly what they were saying. They were saying, like, you're going to kill old people if you go outside to do go to your job or whatever else.
Yeah, you go to the park, you're going to kill Granny.
Yep.
I brought this article in not because I wanted to make people angry. I wanted to bring it in because people need to know what's out there. People need to know what the government is capable of, because they will do this again for whatever reason.
I think most people would just happily get rid on the boxcars and go to the camps.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I really do believe most people would, because like I moved from Utah to Texas because I was like, well, I don't want to be like a libertarian activist. I just think that I'll just move to the place that's quote unquote the freest already and live there. So I lived in Texas for a while, and then I was there in 2020, and like the response was so shocking to me. I was just like, wow, like these people, like legitimately, like if Hitler came to power here, they'd be like, yup, Jews gotta get in the boxcars. Like that's how bad it was. People were totally fine with like cops like wandering around my favorite bar, like cops wandering around making sure we were all seated with masks on. People were fine with like cops standing outside of Walmarts making sure you had a mask on to go inside, shutting everything down. I drove in San Antonio to do Uber Eats because I was essential, because I was doing Uber Eats, where I could see no other car in places where normally you'd see hundreds in your like line of vision while driving. I parked in front of the, what the heck is it called? Some theater, like the Majestic Theater in San Antonio. Just parked it kind of illegally, got out and delivered my Uber Eats and got back in the car, where like that'd be impossible normally. Like I've seen like the streets completely empty, and I didn't take COVID money because I just didn't want to. Like I just would rather work and get out of the house. Like it was so depressing every time I just started to get like depressed and stay in the house longer. Like I was just like, no, I'm just gonna go out and do Uber Eats today, and you know, it's so much better. But anyways, yeah.
Texas was definitely the most brutal COVID authoritarian state that I traveled through during that.
It's really interesting that you say that, because like Lori told me you guys were up in the north, and like whenever I talk about Texas, like lots of people like to say like Texas wasn't that bad because they were like not in a city. So I first of all, it was so bad in the cities. Like I'm
sure
not going
the
to give
cities
Texas
were
a
definitely
pass.
the worst.
But also, you guys were like up in kind of the middle of nowhere, and it was still bad.
The smaller towns not so bad, but the cities were way worse than the cities in other states.
Wow, it's so crazy. Like I seriously avoided Austin. Like when I had to drive through it to leave, and that was the last time I was there with Ian. Oh, it looks like we have a caller on the line. Turd Ferguson in Pennsylvania. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you guys say that the scamdemic wasn't planned? Is that what I heard earlier?
I said it was.
Bonnie believes it was planned. I don't know. I think the reaction was definitely planned. They were planning something like this for years.
Yeah, it was called Event 201, and they went ahead and planned it right before it happened.
Okay, in 2018, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, known as DARPA, conducted a pandemic simulation known as Event 201. This was a tabletop exercise that focused on a fictional coronavirus outbreak leading to a global pandemic. This is 2008. It aimed to assess the response capabilities of various stakeholders, including government and public health organizations of the private sector. Bill Gates was involved in this exercise, which was co-hosted by Johns Hopkins, the World Economic Forum, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The simulation highlighted the importance of preparedness for infectious disease outbreaks and the need for coronavirus global response coordinations.
I'd never heard of Event 201 until Stu said it just now.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either.
Yeah, so now do any of you around that table think that it wasn't planned?
I don't think any of us said that. I'm sorry. Did you say that, Riley?
I don't know. I don't remember what I said.
I don't really think you saying here. I don't think I heard you say that.
Definitely, there's something going on. Definitely, there's a plan in place to lock us in our homes and things like that.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe what I heard was that the response was planned, but not the pandemic itself. But they were both planned. Trust me on that.
Yeah, they were both planned through the NAIDS. They were funding the research, and you had
I really believe they let it go.
And the Bat Lady thing, and yep, it was all totally set up and planned.
I really think that they created the virus too. I just simply said I didn't think the virus didn't exist.
Actually, I think they admitted recently that they did make the virus.
Yep, they made it in the lab.
They admitted they made it. I was just saying, like, some people go as far as to say, like, oh, that COVID doesn't even exist. I think that immediately makes you, like, lose credibility with people because, like, it did exist. It just was created by the government in a lab and probably purposely let go. And the government's response to it was completely unnecessary and possibly even planned in order to grab more control.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out because many people actually haven't heard of Event 201, most of them being liberals or people that don't believe that the pandemic was a planned event, which it certainly was. And I think just the fact that Event 201 was a thing, I think proves it, or maybe at most the most indirect evidence you could possibly come by for it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Turd, for the call.
Thanks, Turd, for the call.
And I always wonder, like, did the government expect the people's response? Like, did we push back enough? Did people push back enough to make it not, like, to where right now we're living in COVID tyranny 100% still? Or, like, way worse?
I think in some respects maybe. But then again, you know, the deep state, as Trump likes to call it, could be using Trump as a pawn to use him to get the conservatives in line for another pandemic or another crazy event.
Yeah. I always feel like it's possible that we did push back enough to where, like, they didn't get everything they wanted done, like what Jeffrey Tucker is saying here, but maybe they kind of, like, strategically retreated and they're going to come back for more.
Or they're just regrouping for another attack.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They know better than to push too far, and they play the long game, though.
Oh, yeah.
They'll retreat as many times as it takes.
Yep, that's why I think it's really important to go live in a place where as many like-minded people as possible actually do live. And just so you guys know, it's not Texas. Like, seriously, it's not. I feel like there's tons of Republicans there who you might be able to, like, convince to live a normal life a bit in, like, the small middle of nowhere places. But I don't want to live in Texas in the middle of nowhere. If I was going to live in Texas, I'd only live in a city. If I'm going to live in the middle of nowhere, I'd rather live in, like, New Hampshire, where there's actually a bunch of libertarians that can be like my community and not just like rednecks.
Yep, and New Hampshire, middle of nowhere is, you know, always a half an hour from a city anyways.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I don't really feel like I made a mistake. Like, there's nothing in my life that I would, like, go back and change or anything. Like, I just learned that it wasn't, like, the freest state. I really don't even know why I thought that. Like, there's just something about Texas that people just believe. Like, you hear, like, Texas, oh yeah, like, they're the best at this and that, and I don't know why. I just fell for it. I didn't look into it.
Yeah, they do paint it out to be some bastion of freedom, but it's definitely not. Neither is Florida. Neither is Wyoming might have the best case for that, just because there's nobody there, and when there's nobody there, there's nobody to pick on, so you get left alone. But
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes I wish the Free State Project was in Wyoming. Like, I just really like the West, but also I don't like the cold as much. Like, I think the winter is worse in Wyoming than in New Hampshire.
Yeah, Wyoming gets real cold.
It does, from what I hear.
Like, I lived in northern Utah, and it's just like way worse winter than New Hampshire. Like, I even compared amount of sunny days per month for the winter months, and there's like way fewer sunny days in where I lived in Utah.
Interesting, because you'd think that northern Utah being a desert wouldn't be as cold.
Well, if you live in the Salt Lake Valley, you get this inversion weather
that's
pattern
true.
where it just traps all the smog and clouds into the valley, and you don't see the sun for like 2.5 weeks. It's very depressing.
I didn't live in the Salt Lake Valley. I lived in a different valley that's in West Desert, next to Nevada, and it was like, seriously, like it was like as if the clouds got trapped above you for like October to April. It just felt like it was like overcast every single day. Everything was gray. I hated it. But I love Utah otherwise. And that's the thing, like a desert just kind of means, basically, one thing you can be sure of with any desert is like extremes. Like, you can have extreme cold in a desert. Antarctica is technically a desert. But yeah, I guess we just kind of went off in the weeds there talking about, like, I guess that's because I brought up what I went through during COVID-19 in Texas. And I do believe that people who really are libertarians and want to live freely in community with other people and not have to rely on people who legitimately will be like, oh, the government told me to, so I'm shutting down my business. You should consider moving to New Hampshire and being a part of the Free State Project.
The nice thing for me was I was in Utah for COVID-19, so it was a little easier to manage. Utah wasn't like really big on locking everybody down.
Were you there in 20?
Nope. I was when it started. I was in Arizona, southern Arizona, a really small town, and then we drove up here kind of during the height of it.
Did you have family members in Utah telling you how it was?
I don't remember if I checked in with them.
My family.
But I could tell that Utah definitely weathered that storm better than a lot of places.
I agree, because my parents were in Utah at the time. They were on a military base, but like the major city nearby was Tooele, Utah, and they were like, yeah, it's so awful, like, and they were just like saying things that were not half as bad as San Antonio. I was like, wow, it sounds like they're doing great there. Like, you could do anything without a mask. There's like several restaurants that were like, no, you gotta wear a mask in here, and my parents just didn't go to those ones. They had other options. Like, it was not like that in most cities, I think. Anyways, this from Jeffrey Tucker from brownstone.org. He's saying that things could have got much, much worse. And it just really makes me believe that, like, this is something they have planned. So keep your brain open. Like, if you see people in the government on the TV screen start saying there's some kind of emergency, remember that these people plan to put you in literal internment camps. And
there are definitely legitimate emergencies to be concerned about, but at the same time, governments tend to either underreact or overreact and make the disasters worse.
He said that high-risk individuals would be temporarily relocated to safe or green zones established at the household, neighborhood, camp sector, or community level, depending on the context and setting. They would have minimal contact with family members and other low-risk residents. In other words, this is what used to be called concentration camps. Who are these people who would be rounded up? They are older adults and people of any age who have serious underlying medical conditions. Who determines this? Public health authorities. The purpose? The CDC explains, physically separating high-risk individuals from the general population allows authorities to prioritize the use of the limited available resources. Because the government gets to decide. It's like the government doesn't even actually own any resources. They don't make any money of them of their own.
Nope.
But they get to decide.
Because they can't actually do anything except steal.
Yep, that's the only thing that they can possibly do is steal and redistribute, and usually goes to them because they're parasites. And I think everybody on Free Talk Live understands that for the most part, the government is not the people that we should rely on during emergencies.
You should be more reliant on your neighbors during emergencies. But the problem has been we've been so disconnected from our neighbors that we forget who our neighbors are. And when we forget who our neighbors are, we forget to associate with each other, we're essentially screwed.
And I mean, it's like all these things seem to go together. Like the dangers on the roads increasing, people just are losing their humanity. It's something that like Ray Bradbury brought up in Fahrenheit 451, how like the younger kids like played games where they would purposely try to hit people in the road and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's been Free Talk Live. For more, you can go to freetalklive.com. Thanks for listening, and peace.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants.